Make the ground shake.
here with you. See your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. Nothing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now. Here with you now. Here with you. Rather be no other place than here with you now. Rather be no other place than here with you. I see your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. Nothing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now.
Chase the wind and touch the sky. A star's light shines on long after it dies. Oh, in the night, I live every day as if it's your last. All memories been bright like beacons of the past. Oh, in the night, now we race against the sun. Now we race against the Now we race against the sun. Now we race against the race against the sun. Now we race against the sun. Race against the sun. Now we race against the sun. Now we
Alright guys, what is up? We are here, and yes, we have made it to the finals here. Excited that Scrapie was able to make it through the final chance yesterday in honestly pretty commanding fashion, especially there in the finals over Yvonne with that nice 3-0 sweep. A fantastic day from Scrapie, but for Scrapie here today, the battle has just begun here. If you guys aren't familiar with the format here for the finals, Scrapie, because he's the final chance qualifier, still will have a disadvantage here in the finals to start it off. He's not able to play the first 6 rounds, which means the first full 2 maps he will be sitting out for and having to fight from behind. But if you guys saw, the bans and picks are incredibly in favor of Scrapie's map pool here. So definitely exciting to see the first pick being Slalom there by Gwen. And if there was any map Scrapie didn't want to play, out of the 5 maps in the pool. That was it, and he's going to be able to sit out for that. So I think this this pick order actually holds pretty well to Scrapie's strengths, and the first map Scrapie will be coming in for is going to be reversing, so I definitely see some strong potential even to qualify through just on that map, and the other 2 maps he'll have available are going to be Bicycle and Arctic. So honestly, looking at those 3 maps, if there was ever a good opportunity for Scrapie to fight from behind and qualify, I think this is the map pool to do it on. So definitely some strong potential, I think, for Scrapie to still make it through into the top 6 here, but it is going to be difficult. A lot of it's going to depend on what happens in those first 6 rounds that Scrapie's not going to be in for, but at the same time, there's no way he's going to have essentially no chance, I think, at this point. I think it's more of a reality for Scrapie that he just has less time to put up those good performances. And with the map pool being slightly in his favor, I think he's going to have a chance to put on a good performance in at least the first couple of maps on the table for himself. So it's definitely going to be a tough day for Scrapie to make it through this first round here, but he's been given the opportunity to make it happen, and I think that's the most important thing. Had we been starting here today on Slalom, I would have said there's probably a low chance that Scrapie would make it through to the next round even, but looking at reversing as the first map here, I definitely think he's going to have some potential on that one. If you guys are tuning in, though, a quick shout out before we get started to our partners XP Sports and Logitech G. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below, as well as our new merch store via new. So it's going to be an exciting day, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in and joining with us. Be sure to follow Scrapie's channel here today if you haven't yet, to show him your support here, as well as he is definitely going to need some support today. It's going to be a tough day, but I think he can pull it off here. I mean, realistically, this map pool is not one that I think is going to work too hard against him. I think it's just a matter of him coming today and ready to perform under the pressure. Obviously, you do have a stronger set of drivers than what we saw yesterday. You've got the likes of Carl Jr., Pack, Bren, Papu, all really good time trial drivers here. So I think it's still going to be a tough feat to make it through going against a definite stronger pool of drivers here today. But he does have that comfortability of playing this format very similarly yesterday, so I think that is a nice advantage to work with. Right now, though, we are going to hop in the server here, just waiting on everyone to get readied up and get started, but we'll start by hopping in with Carl Jr. here to get a sense of how he's feeling on the maps today, because he is coming into this one as the reigning champion, so definitely some pressure on the shoulders of Carl Jr. here to prove himself once again, but honestly, after seeing some of the performances in the regular season, I think there's a strong chance Carl's not going to win this one. Let me know, though, in the chat, what do you guys think? Who is going to win overall today? And how do you guys think Scrapie is going to do? I'd love to get your thoughts here before we get things kicked off, but it looks like we are preparing for map number 1. Like I said, it is going to be Slalom to kick us off today, and I think this is going to be a crazy map to kick things off on as well. It's a very difficult map for a lot of drivers, and as we saw yesterday, room for a lot of mistakes on this map as well. And here we go. We are already kicking things off here. It looks like it's going to start here with, I believe, Bren leading the charge overall. It looks like they're going to go ahead and reset here. I think there was a bit of a starting issue, since I don't believe all of the drivers are going to be driving in round 1, so I think they're trying to get that sorted out right now, since I believe it will start as yesterday did with a head-to-head. But right now, it looks like everybody's just kind of getting comfortable on this map. I think this will end up being a reset, though, because I'm pretty sure that it's only going to start with the top 2 drivers on each map. Right now, though, as you can see, Gwen putting in some good lap time here, just getting comfortable. Maybe this is an indicator of what's to come, but Bren definitely a slow starter on this one. Right now, though, as we can see, Gwen looking pretty comfortable on this map, and he's one of those drivers going into the day I wasn't 100% sure. Hits a little bump there, though. A nice little lead here from Pack. As we can see here, it is going to be Pack making really good time here on slalom so far. I think he's one of the drivers who I can see performing really well on this map, alongside Gwen, since this was Gwen's pick for the map as well. So I definitely expect a strong performance from him. But yeah, Pack and Gwen are my go-to looks at this map. I don't think this is necessarily one of Carl's stronger maps. I'd kind of look for Carl for essentially any map outside of this I could see Carl qualifying on, to be honest. Slalom, though, hasn't really been a strong one for him either. Pack, though, looking still very, very comfortable here. And honestly, just making work of this map so far. I think for him it's going to be a really confident showing here today. Pack's one of those drivers, though. I feel like if you asked most people what their prediction is, a lot of people are thinking Pack's going to make the final two today. And honestly, it would not surprise me to see him there. I think the only potential knockouts are maybe going to be on some of the later rounds here for a driver like Pack, but I'd say for him it's almost inevitable he's going to make it through at least to the next round here. So it looks like we are going to continue forward here. I'm not sure if they're going to reset, since I think some of the drivers were only supposed to come in later on here. I'm not sure why it would be all 8 for every opening round, and then just Scrapie in round 7, I believe, is when he comes in. So we'll see if maybe they change things up here, or maybe I'm just a little bit confused on the starting format. But right now it is going to be Pack, again, out in front early. But this time Gwen looking to make up some time already in this first lap. Pack, though, not able to hold on to the lead. This time it's actually Bren who snipes the early lead here. Overall, though, looking pretty confident for these top 3. Carl Jr. having a much better go of it as well. This big icy hill, though, this is going to be the make it or break it moment on the map for a lot of these drivers. And as you can see in lap number 1, Carl Jr. taking advantage of his positioning here this time around, and finding himself out in front at the start of lap number 2. Mutta, unfortunately, very far behind the rest of the group here, but Carl Jr. still pulling ahead here and trying to extend that lead a little bit further. And it's looking like he might be able to hold on to this one. Has to be careful, though. Pack and Bren very close behind here. Hopping on with Pack, who has already picked up a win on this map, and honestly looking like he could do it once again. Pack and Carl, though, head-to-head on this first map. A lot of back and forth between these two drivers. Carl, though, still in the lead going into the big icy hill. It's going to be up to him to hold on to his positioning here. A little bit shaky around the corner, but still manages to get through with enough consistency here to find himself a win. If you guys are just tuning in, Scrapie does have a disadvantage, as coming in from that last chance qualifier requires him to sit out for the entirety of the first 2 maps. So at the start of map 3, Scrapie will be coming in here to try and tackle that 3rd map and start clawing back here. And I think realistically the best situation for Scrapie is only maybe 1 or 2 drivers making it through at that point. I think for Scrapie, he's someone who can easily come in and get a back-to-back win, especially considering the 3 maps he's going to have to perform on are maps where he's historically pretty strong on. So I think for Scrapie, it's more of just not taking a lot of time to get warmed up here, because he's already going to be 6 rounds down of a disadvantage. He's just going to have to come in and bring his A game from the start here. Right now, though, we're going to be continuing forward on slalom to see if somebody can pick up their first double win here. And it's looking like Pack may be the one with that opportunity. Carl Jr., though, right behind him, looking for that second win already of the day as well. And Pack, alongside Carl Jr., I'd have to say, like, if anyone was going to ask me at the beginning of this who I would say probably would be the final 2, these 2 guys I think are a very strong contender to be our final 2 at the end of the day. But at the same time, I think Scrapie could come in and do a lot of work. It's definitely not a situation where it's impossible for him. He's just going to be at a disadvantage here. And making it past the first round, I think, is going to be one of the hardest things for Scrapie. I think if he can make it past the first round here, I think there's a very strong chance that Scrapie finishes in the top 4. Right now, though, Affy and Mutta trying to catch up, but they are already losing a lot of ground as well. Pack and Carl Jr. just off to a phenomenal start here in this opening map. Both of them with the only 2 wins so far on the day, and first and second place here on the third map as well. But it's going to be Pack who secures that first double victory on the day, and that's honestly going to be a big advantage for him. Gets to be a little bit more comfortable now for the remainder of the round. Definitely a strong start, though, overall, coming out from Pack and Carl Jr. on this first map. Both of them just trading wins back and forth here. But at the end of the day, Carl still needs that second win to feel safe for now. Right now, he's not quite there just yet, but having won on the first map definitely will give him at least that bit of confidence that he'll probably be able to at least make it through pretty comfortably to that next round. As we can see, though, it is going to be a pretty tough one coming up here. Frozen Fridges, another map where I think Scrapie's going to be pretty happy that this one isn't in the pool for him as well. I think he got very lucky with both of these maps back-to-back being the 2 maps he had to miss. I feel like if Arctic Split and Bicycle were the first 2 maps, Scrapie would be going into a pretty tough situation here for his performance on the day. I mean, he needs to have strong maps in the pool to be able to go for that back-to-back win and qualify very quickly under the pressure he's going to be facing. So I really think for Scrapie, he's going to be coming in at a great time. Right now, though, it is going to be our first run-through on the second map of the day, Frozen Fridges. Pack, the only driver through to the next round so far. Right now, Mutta, he looked confident at the start here, but Bren overtaking that first position now as Mutta slides back to about 4th. Carl Jr., though, moving in on that first place position as we go into the drop-down section here. Things looking better and better for Carl to potentially pick up his second win in our 4th race of the day. As we can see, though, Carl closing in on that first lap victory. He's going to hold on to it. Mutta starting to catch back up, though, improving his time greatly here to do so. Carl, though, still barely holding on to it, but you can see Mutta here very, very close behind him, trying to push this one to the limits. Carl, though, he wants that safety. He wants to make sure he grabs this second win early on and takes some of the pressure off of himself and finding that early top 6. It's definitely a huge boost for these 2 drivers, but Carl Jr. and Pack, I think, going into today, those are the drivers that everyone is out here to try and prove themselves against because they've just been so consistent throughout the TMGL season so far. It's no question that both of them have come into this finals with a lot of confidence. Right now, though, Mutta and Papu going to be down and out basically for this one. Not really in contention to close it out, but Carl Jr. already here about to approach the finish line, and he will indeed find his way through to the win. Gwen very close behind him, but not close enough to grab the overtake around that last corner. So Carl Jr. already finds himself through to the next round as well, and honestly, this is not a bad situation for Scrapie going into it. All of the wins are now off the table for the drivers that are still in this lobby, so Scrapie's really only going to be taking on 1 or 2 drivers with an advantage when he joins in. There's going to be at least 3 other drivers that don't have any wins yet themselves. So honestly, Scrapie, there is still that opportunity to come in and make some good work of this, considering none of these drivers currently now left have found a win yet. So I think the best case scenario for Scrapie is honestly someone going back-to-back here, and then Scrapie comes in against 4 drivers at an even playing field, 2 of which will qualify through. And in that situation, with reversing being the first map, I think Scrapie will be in a pretty good place. So right now we're on run 2 out of 3 here on Frozen Fridges. Reversing will be the next map here after these 2 runs are completed. And along that, Scrapie will be joining them as well. And I know Scrapie is definitely going to be eager to get in here and put in some early work on reversing. Right now, though, Mutta having some struggles again, losing that early advantage. Bren this time around, though, is the driver out in front. Papu very close behind him as well. And Arl rounding out the top 3 here. As we can see here, though, it is going to be Bren. A little bit of a bump, though. That's going to be an unfortunate mistake from Bren. Papu and Arl alongside Mutta sliding out into the top 3 now. Arl with a big lead advantage here in the final lap. Unfortunate for Bren, but a golden opportunity now for Arl to close out with a map victory for himself here. 0.63 ahead of Mutta in second place. This should be Arl's for the taking unless he makes a big mistake. Going into the drop-down section here, it is going to be Arl continuing to extend that lead. Pretty much no drivers within reach here besides maybe Mutta if Arl slips up. And Mutta, you see him trying to push this one the distance. Mutta coming from behind here. Can he do it around the last few turns? It's going to be neck and neck across the finish line here. And Mutta, he does it in under 0.01 seconds. That's insanity here. Mutta, less than 0.01 to work with, gets the win. Incredible performance from Mutta to somehow find that win. Probably the closest finish we've seen here so far this weekend, but what an incredible performance there from Mutta, keeping it close down to the wire. He finds the win, and now he's got a chance to go for the 2-0 here. Mutta looking for that back-to-back with a nice early lead here. Affy and Gwen, though, in the fight for it as well. Arl not too far behind. Papu, the only one a little bit outside the pack early on here. Around the last few corners, it is going to be several drivers here fighting back and forth for that overtake. Mutta, though, still looking to hold on to the early lead here, but going into the drop-down section the first time around, falls back into 4th as Arl pushes into the lead. And this is where things start to get hyped up, guys. After this round, Scrapie will be joining the server to see what he can do and see if he can finally claw his way back in here and get through to the top 6. Right now, though, it is going to be Gwen out in front on this final run through of Frozen Fridges. Gwen still yet to find a victory today so far. It'd be a great boost for him overall. Mutta, though, we saw him do it the last time around. Can he do it again? Looking for that last-minute overtake. He does have some strong potential going into that final section of the map here. He showed last time around he cut down 0.5 seconds to win it by less than 0.01, but he's going to have to do that again here because he is in need of some time on his side here going into the final section again. Mutta about 0.41 down. Gwen out in front, but Mutta starting to cut that time down again, moves into second. 0.06, Mutta looking to do it on the final turn once again. Can he go 2 in a row on this final turn? Mutta, he's going to get the overtake around the last corner, but it is still neck and neck going into the final turn here. Mutta trying to cut the corner, but this time around, it's not going to happen, and Gwen finds his way into the victory, and that'll be his first of the day. And now Scrapie is in the server, and this is where things get interesting. Scrapie going to be fighting from behind here, but he's definitely not out of the fight, to say the least. It's going to be an interesting opportunity for Scrapie to show everyone what he can do on this map and really put up a stellar performance. Right now, though, Scrapie, this is where the pressure is at its peak. This first round going to be very difficult, coming into it after 6 rounds of not being able to be on the track. But chat, we've got your support here. Let's show some love for Scrapie as he takes to the track for the first time today. The final chance qualifier who made it through all the way here into the finals after a tough regular season. He's fought hard to get here, and now he's been given a golden opportunity to be in this final. Right now, though, 30 seconds of warm-up, and we will be kicking it off, reversing the first map for Scrapie. Of 3 total maps, he's going to have a chance to qualify through on. Pack and Carl Jr. already secure in the top 6. That means only 4 spots remain here. Gwen and Mudda already with an advantage in potentially grabbing one of those as well, as they do have a win each going into this race as well. So Scrapie, his big targets are going to be these drivers who have yet to pick up a map win. And honestly, on a map like Reversing, it would not surprise me to see Scrapie win at least 1 here, maybe even potentially 2 if he brings his A game. Scrapie, though, first map in the server. Let's see what he can do here, guys. It's going to be up to Scrapie to prove himself now in his first run through on the finals. And so far, off to a pretty clean start, fighting for that first place position early on. Papu with the early overtake alongside Bren, but it is still very close here to kick off this map. Scrapie cleaning up the lines here around the corners, moving comfortably back into that top 3, but it's still a lot of back and forth here. You can see it, all of these drivers neck and neck here. No clear front runner just yet, but Scrapie definitely in the fight on this one. The first drop down into the reverse going to be a very crucial moment here now for Scrapie going into this first drop down. Coming out of it, looking clean around the corners here, Scrapie holding on to that 3rd place position. Definitely in the fight for first coming out of this one. Hits the flip timing nicely, has the experience of playing this map a lot yesterday as well to work with. Swings into first coming out of it, and Scrapie leads at the end of lap number 1 here. So Scrapie in a opportune position, already his first map into it. The big question now is, can he hold on to this positioning? Bren very, very close behind. Gwen and Mudda both in the fight here as well. Scrapie, though, trying to do something remarkable here in his first map of the finals. We'll see if he can fight his way through, extending his lead now to 0.14. And this is looking pretty good for him, but Gwen is hot on his heels here. And going into the drop down, Scrapie has to keep this one clean. The big question on everybody's minds, though, will he go for the flip or will he hold it in reverse for the remainder of the track here? We saw him hit that final barrier so many times yesterday, but he's got to keep it clean here through to the finish line. Scrapie, though, coming out of it, he's not going to be able to hold on. He doesn't go for the flip, commits to the reverse, and Scrapie, he's not going to be able to do it here. A big unfortunate start here. He had it in the bag, but he didn't want to risk turning around and losing that first place. But unfortunately, that will be the downfall. And Mudda sneaks in to find his first double win of the day and his 3rd spot in the top 6. Scrapie, though, he does have the pacing to get this done, though. He proved that here in his first run through, but now he can't afford to be making those kind of mistakes. He's got to clean it up and make sure he's got a good plan of attack going into that final lap, because putting it in reverse is going to be a lot of risk for him. It seems about, I would say 50% of the time, he's not able to close it out in reverse very cleanly. So I think for Scrapie, he almost wants to try and build a lead here where he can go for the full flip around on that final drop down. And honestly, he might have had a chance to do it there, but I don't think he realized where the time gap was exactly going into that final drop down. Right now, though, kicking off the second run through, Scrapie again confident towards the front of the pack here and keeps it strong. And right now, it's going to be up to Scrapie to see what he can do here, because he's shown he's got the lap timers to do it. Now he has to close it out, though. This is where the pressure is going to be high for Scrapie. The second run through, he doesn't want to go down that same way again, so he has to keep things clean in this final lap and try and extend enough to not be able to take too much risk here in that final section of track. And you know he's probably going to be eyeballing those checkpoint timers here in the safer sections to see if he has that room to work with here in lap number 2. But right now, I'd have to say Arl's not really giving him too much space to work with, so Scrapie, it may be a risk play in the final drop down once again. Scrapie, though, we've seen him keep it clean in this section before, but now more than ever, he's going to have to step up to the plate and close this one out. Scrapie into the drop down, still in the lead here. The question is now, what is the approach in the final section? He knows he has a little bit of time on his side, but isn't enough to go for the flip here. He's going to go full reverse once again. This time around, he's going to be able to close it out just barely, less than 0.01 seconds. Scrapie finds the win, though, barely hanging on. Incredibly close down to the wire, but Scrapie able to hold on just barely there across the finish line, and Scrapie has already found his first win of the day in his second time on the track, and Scrapie looking to do it here already in map number 1. 4 drivers on the field still yet to pick up a win of their own, so Scrapie, he's come to this finals to really show what he's made of here, and you can already see it here into this third run through. Scrapie wants to grab this one on reversing. He doesn't even want to take it to a map 4. He wants to be a one-and-done map performer here in the first round, and so far he has shown the strength to make that happen. Scrapie looking better than ever here to kick this one off, and this is really the momentum he needs. If he can get enough space to continue to play it a little bit safer in the final sections of the drop down, he's going to have that flexibility he needs to win. But this time around, a lot of these drivers are going to be putting that extra pressure on to try and get a placement of their own here. Scrapie falls to about third here coming into the drop down. Still well within striking distance of first place, keeping those lines clean, already elevating himself towards the front of the pack coming into lap number 2. Currently in second place to start it off, but keeping things clean quickly moves him back up into the front. Now the final lap here, Scrapie looking to extend and hold on here to this lead. Already in a difficult position to try and do that with Gwen very, very close behind him. He doesn't have quite as much space as he did on that last run through, and we saw how close that one was across the finish line. But this time Gwen, he has his eyes set on the prize here in this map. Scrapie and Gwen duking it out now in the front of the pack here. Both of them overtake after overtake, back and forth. It's going to be a very close situation going into the final drop down here. Gwen slips back. That's going to be a mistake. He bumped the wall, and now Scrapie is going to be head-to-head with Papou here across the finish line. Papou, though, slightly out in front. Scrapie has to keep his lines clean here in the drop-down section to have that chance here. Papou leading to go into it here, but can he hold on? Scrapie not going to be able to make it happen, unfortunately. This time it's going to be a second-place finish, but that is going to be a nice consistency across the board, and he does manage to still pick up a win here on his first map. Papou, though, finding the final win here on map number 1. Scrapie, though, he just needs one more going into the next map, and honestly, if we look at the 2 maps coming up, we've got Bicycle and Arctic Split. These are 2 maps where Scrapie performed incredibly well yesterday, so I think there's really some good potential here for Scrapie to actually make it through to the top 6 here on this next map. If you guys are tuning in as well, appreciate everybody showing up today to show your support for Scrapie. Be sure to show some love to the channel as well. Give it a follow if you haven't yet. And we are going to be hopping in here for map number 4 in just a few moments. But before we do, a quick shout out to our partners here, XP Sports and Logitech G. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. But guys, there are 3 spots remaining now in the top 6 as we hop into it. And Scrapie looking to be a contender here for one of those spots, and right now he's in a great position to do that. There's 3 drivers that still have yet to find themselves a single win here, and Scrapie in his first 3 maps already has one and was very close every single time. I see a world where Scrapie could have won every single reversing run there. He was very close to doing so. But at the end of the day, when the pressure's at its peak, Scrapie has to show up ready to win here, and Bicycle is his next opportunity now to do that. As we go into it at the start, it is going to be a neck-and-neck battle amongst the top 5 here. Affy, the only driver currently outside of this fight. Scrapie, though, definitely not in the key position to move himself forward into the first place position just yet, but if he can keep these lines clean, he may have a chance here going into the next couple of sections. That tree, though, I'm sure you guys remember it from yesterday, did cost him a couple of very big laps for himself in yesterday's final chance. So Scrapie definitely taking it safe around those trees this time around. Scrapie, though, going into the boost turns, trying to make up a little bit of ground here, manages to get some headway and overtake third. He's going to have to do more than that here going into the second lap, though, as he does still have about 0.3 seconds to recover here to catch up to the rest of the pack. As you can see, though, a nice little inside cut there around the last couple of turns actually picks him up an extra amount of pacing here going into the start of lap number 2, and now with this extra speed on his side, he's going to have a chance here to take the lead. Scrapie, though, has to slow that extra speed down a little bit, you see, going into that uphill section, but he still keeps the time on his side, and that is what you want to see here from a first run-through for Scrapie. Piesicle looking like a good opportunity here, but it's not over just yet. He has to keep it clean up to the finish line here in order to close this one out. The lead now up to 0.2 seconds as we go into the next checkpoint. He cleanly makes it past the tree once again, playing it a little bit safe, loses about 0.03 seconds on it, but he still has a big enough lead here to maintain here, and Arl is actually the only driver within a second of Scrapie here, so it's going to be basically a 1v1 down to the finish line between Arl and Scrapie. Scrapie still in the lead by just a car length here. It's going to be a very close race down to the finish line, but Scrapie, can he do it here? He's qualified through as the 4th driver into the top 6 already. A beautiful performance from Scrapie here on Piesicle round 1, and just like that, with the odds against him, he still beats 5 other drivers as the 4th driver into the top 6. A big performance, to say the least, from Scrapie. Honestly, just extremely impressive work from Scrapie, a well-deserved and earned spot there as the 4th driver through. He joins Pack, Carl Jr., and Mutta, awaiting the top 6. And now it's going to be Bren, Gwen, Papu, Affy, and Arl. One of these drivers is going to have to make it through very soon here. And Gwen looking to make it a reality for himself. He's already got a win here. Papu as well. Affy, Arl, and Bren still yet to find any wins on the day as well. But Scrapie, he's feeling a little bit comfortable now, and rightfully so. I mean, he's fought his way from a 14th finish in the regular season to a guaranteed top 6 in the TMGL finals. That alone in itself is an amazing feat, guys, and anything that happens at this point is just going to be icing on the cake. But maybe he could push it all the way, and maybe he could go all the way from final chance to a championship here, guys. The potential is now there for Scrapie to come full circle and win that championship. But right now here on lap number 2, Gwen, we're going to hop on with him as he looks to try and secure himself into that 5th position in the round of 6. Right now, Papu, though, another driver who could do that during this very race as well, is going head-to-head for that spot. These are the only 2 drivers as well that have any hope of winning on the second lap here. It's going to come down to the wire. Gwen versus Papu for the 5th spot. And Gwen right now starting to pull a little bit ahead. And there you have it. It's going to be a knockout. Papu, he's down and out, and Gwen, he's going to be able to secure this one here. And there you have it. Gwen will be the 5th driver to move forward. Unfortunately, it is going to be Papu having to continue his fight forward, but there's 3 drivers right now still yet to pick up a win here in this format. Arl, Affy, and Bren. And honestly, I would say the biggest surprise to see down here is Bren, to be honest. I think Bren is a driver I maybe thought was going to be doing a little bit better at this point. Bren, I would have said probably would be someone I predicted to be in the top 6 going into this. Papu, I think, will be the one to potentially do that now, though. Papu, he's already got that one under his belt, and he's shown on Piesicle he does have the times to put up in order to close this one out. It's just a matter of keeping that consistency, and now up against Bren, Arl, and Affy, I'd have to say Papu's the one for me that's going to take this. Right now, we'll see if Papu can find his way into the closeout here, but right now, barring a large mistake, he should be the one able to do it here in this final run through on Piesicle. And honestly, you couldn't ask for more here in terms of a very intense top 6. I mean, if you're looking at Papu, Gwen, Scrapie, Mutta, Carl Jr., and Pack, that is a dangerous group of individuals on the track. And honestly, I think this next round is going to be one of the most exciting ones, because I think honestly anyone could make it through out of those 6 drivers. I think obviously Pack and Carl Jr. are the favorites out of that group, but after seeing what Scrappy's been able to do here in the last 2 days, he's definitely going to be keeping everybody on their toes, coming in with only 3 maps out of the 5 to make an impact, and not even needing those. That's got to be something that keeps these other drivers wondering what Scrappy's going to be able to do in the next round, and honestly, he's looked a little bit better than some of the other drivers that have made it through this far. Right now, though, Papu looking to close this one out. Arl trying to close that lead gap just a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Papu very comfortably in front now. All he has to do is maintain that consistency going into the final sections of track here and just hold on. Bren does manage the overtake onto Arl, who goes down and out, but Bren, he's going to have to do something crazy here to recover this. This is his last chance. Otherwise, all 3 remaining drivers, they're out of the finals, and Bren, unless he does something incredible here in the final turns, it's not going to happen, and there you have it across the finish line. It's Papu, the 6th driver through. Bren, Arl, and Affy, the first 3 to go down here in the finals. What an incredible feat, though, here from Scrapie. You've got to hand it to him. I even talked to him before the match day, and he said, look, it's pretty unlikely that I'll make it through to the next round, but with the map pool, the confidence was there, the performance was there, and now Scrapie, he's a strong contender to do really well here in this finals. The real question is, though, now that he's made it into the round of 6, will he be able to take out some of these harder-hitting drivers? Pack and Carl Jr. have looked phenomenal throughout the TMGL season and here in the finals already so far. I think those are the 2 biggest threats Scrapie really has in potentially making it through to the next round here. I think when you look at drivers like Gwen and Papu, I think time for time Scrapie can definitely go head-to-head with them under the pressure. I think it really just comes down to some of the wild cards like Mutta. I think Mutta's a driver, when we look at who could maybe make the top 4 here, Mutta for me is one of those drivers who could go either way. He's a very hot and cold driver, but when Mutta's on his A game, he can put up some crazy lap times as well. So he's definitely someone I could see being a strong impact and maybe shaking up the leaderboards here as these guys fight for the top 4. But the biggest thing here to look at is honestly going to be the map order. I think for Scrapie, that's the biggest thing to look at. He may have been able to avoid slalom in the first round because he was out of it, but now every map is an option here, and people are going to know that, you know, Scrapie may have been able to avoid slalom and have a clean cut on some maps he was good in the opening round, but now Scrappie's going to have to be ready for those maps to come up again here, and those could be the maps that ultimately decide his fate and potentially getting into the top 4 or even the top 2 here today. So I think for Scrapie, it's just going to be a matter of keeping consistency even on the maps where he's a little bit less comfortable here as we go into this next round. But right now, guys, we are just going to be hopping into the server in just a moment here for the next round. But before we do, quick shout out to you guys for all tuning in here. I appreciate everybody showing their support for Scrapie throughout the season here. It means a lot that you guys come out every week and show your support for Scrapie in the chat. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us, and we definitely look forward to what's going to happen here moving forward. It's already been an incredible run for Scrapie. At the end of the day, I'm happy regardless of what happens at this point. He's already proved that he can really claw back and fight his way from a tough regular season into a strong postseason here. And I think now for Scrapie, it's just seeing how far he can push this to its limits. I mean, going into the final chance yesterday, I don't think any driver in the final chance went into that event saying, I know for sure I can win this final chance and do well in the finals, because when you go into an event like the final chance, the odds are already stacked so hard against every driver that in itself was a big accomplishment to make it through. But now, on top of that, he's in the top 6 after a 2-map disadvantage here, and honestly, now the pressure is on. We are just taking a moment here, guys. They are getting the server set up for our next round here, which is going to be the round of 6 here, starting in a few short moments. But right now, it's going to be an interesting one. I think Scrapie is really going to be put to the test here. I think he does have a strong potential to make the top 4. I'm not so sure, though, about the final. I think for Scrapie, showing what he's done so far, I would say I think for sure Scrapie could make the top 4, barring major mistakes in this next round. I think the biggest question for me now would be, can he get past Pack and Carl Jr. to make that final? I think Pack and Carl Jr. have shown throughout this year that they're the most consistent drivers overall, but I think Scrapie time for time just has that slight edge over a lot of individuals here, and I think that could be a huge advantage for Scrapie here going into today's event style. I think this format compared to what you see in the regular season is just something that Scrapie's going to thrive on. Like if you said this finals format to me was going to be the regular season format, I would say Scrapie would not even be at risk of getting relegated ever, because when it comes to lap for lap times, I think Scrapie is one of the best drivers in the TMGL. His problem though becomes when you lengthen out a race and keeping that consistency throughout. And that's where I think Scrapie may have some advantages here in the final, because you're only looking at 2 laps, and most drivers, even if they take risks in a 6-lap race, they can keep it clean for 2 laps pretty comfortably. But you've seen here, even throughout Scrapie's point of view so far, reversing, for example, like I said, every other time, it seems he's still hitting that end barrier when he goes for the reverse play on the final run through each lap. Like it's not a consistent thing for him. So he's definitely willing to take the risks here, but this is the type of scenario which that can pay off greatly. Right now, though, guys, we are just waiting for the server to get set up here for our round of 6. Right now, though, I think there's just a few people in the server. We are just waiting on everyone to get rolling here, though, and we will be right into it. If you guys are hanging out, though, let me know your predictions for the round of 6. Which 2 drivers do you think are going to fall here? Who do you think is going to make it through? Who do you have winning the whole event here? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say here, since I do think this is going to be a very intense round, and I think over the weekend so far, I think this is going to be one of the closest rounds we've seen competitively in Trackmania in quite a while. Since when I look at all 6 of these drivers, like I said earlier, I think anyone could easily make it through here out of all of these drivers. I think it's just going to be a matter of consistency and eliminating some of those risky mistakes. So right now, it is going to be a tough one. Right now, though, we are just waiting for the server to be up, guys. While we are hanging out, though, a big shout out to our partners, XP Sports and Logitech G. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. You can also use discount code Scrapie for 30% off at xpsports.com, so definitely be sure to show them some love there. But guys, we are into the thick of it here. If you guys are just tuning in, you've missed quite the weekend so far from Scrapie. Yesterday, he went into the final chance thinking it was going to be extremely difficult to even make it through that process. Scrapie comes in huge yesterday, fights all the way through the final chance into the final versus Yvonne, 3-0s Yvonne in the finals, who, keep in mind, that is actually, I believe, who he plays for the relegation match next weekend as well. So it'll be a rematch against Yvonne, who he performed really well against yesterday. And now on top of that, he comes in today, round of 9, 2 maps behind everybody else, still makes the top 6, and now the question is, can he come all the way from last chance to being the champion? That's what I'm excited to see here, guys. But let me know what you think. But right now, we are going to take a quick break since the servers are delayed. So it's going to be about 5 minutes, and then we'll be into the next round, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and stay tuned. All right, guys, what's up? We are back and ready to go here. And it's going to be the round of 6. We've got Papu, Scrapie, Carl Jr., Pack, Mutta, and Gwen. This is really where the heat is on. I think all 6 of these drivers are capable of going all the way and winning here. It's just going to come down to who has the performance when it matters most. But I think this is where things are going to get interesting, guys. Map number 1 is going to be reversing here in the round of 6. That is an interesting one for Scrapie here because as we saw in his first run-throughs of the day, he looked very, very good on all of the run-throughs. Just a few small mistakes on a couple of those times around in the final lap. So for this to be the first map, I honestly think it's going to be a pretty decent opportunity for Scrapie to get through to the top 4 very early. Right now, though, as we hop back into it here, everybody getting warmed up on reversing here, our first map of the top 6. And this is where it gets interesting for Scrapie. He has fought very hard to get here, but this is where it's going to be put to the real test here. Carl Jr. and Pack, the 2 drivers that everybody is out here to beat today. Carl, the defending champion here as well from the fall season. The pressure definitely on all of these drivers here. Only 4 out of the 6 will make it through on to the next round, but as we saw yesterday, Scrapie under the pressure, he got it done, but this is a whole new level of talent here when you look at these other drivers in the top 6 compared to yesterday. Carl and Pack consistently 2 of the fastest in the league here. On top of that, you have Mutta playing really, really well in this format, and then Gwen and Papu, who are definitely some wild cards who could put up some big times as well. It is going to be a tough road ahead, but Scrapie, he's ready to push it one step further, and here we go into the first laps on reversing. And Scrapie, that is not the start you want to see here. Oh, it was just a warm-up. I thought that was still the live match timer. I was very concerned for a moment there. But no, we are good, guys. I got juked by the warm-up, but now we are into the action here. Scrapie looking to put it through on reversing. But just as I say that, it is going to be Scrapie having an equally difficult blunder in the first lap here, and I don't think this one's going to happen for Scrapie. I think he's just going to take a DNF on this first run through. A bit unfortunate, but it is going to be Scrapie unable to obtain a win here in this first run through, and we'll see what happens in the next 2. It's a tough road to start on, but you know, he was 6 rounds down before. I don't think he's going to let one burn him too much here. Right now, though, Scrapie just going to be getting a little bit of practice here. So we'll actually go hop in to the lead where it's actually Gwen and Pack pretty close to each other as they fight out for this first place and the first win of the round of 6 here. Right now, though, it's going to be a pretty difficult one, to be honest, for Gwen to try and recover. Pack has pulled pretty far into the lead here, and now it's really going to be up to Gwen to try and recover this time here. Pack, though, looking pretty pristine on this first map of the round of 6 here. Scrapie, though, just having to think about what he can do in these next 2 runs to really make an impact, because there is going to be a lot less time on the table to work with here, considering only 4 drivers make it through this time around. That means less track time to work with, but I guess to be fair for Scrapie, this could still be more track time than what he saw in the opening round to work with, as he did only need 4 races to actually qualify, and he won 2 of them. So right now, Pack, though, across the finish line, steals it from Gwen, and that's a nice opener for Pack, showing his control over that last section, and that's really the difference here between a driver like Pack and a driver like Scrapie. This last section of the reverse, Pack has that down really, really well, and that's something I could see being a difficult hurdle for Scrapie, because Pack, I think, has the potential to win this one back-to-back, whereas Scrapie, against this pool of drivers, it's a tough map. It really is. Scrapie already, he's going to have a bit of a blunder here at the start as well. This one's not enough to be down and out of the race, but he's already a second behind here. And honestly, that's going to be a bit unfortunate. So Scrapie, I think, is going to take the DNF here as well. Another rough start, and he knows it's just not going to be enough to recover. We'll go ahead and hop on with Gwen here, though, who's currently leading the second run-through. Gwen right now off to a great start. Papu and Pack, though, very close behind. It's going to be a pretty close-knit top four as we continue forward. On reversing Scrapie, though, he's going to have to look to the future maps to try and get the job done now. He's going to have one more chance on reversing, though, as well, to potentially put up a point here. Pack looking to try and get this one done, though, in the second round. He was the first qualifier as well in the first run-through in the round of 9. Right now, though, it's just a difficult task at hand for Carl Jr. to keep up with him. He's starting to fall further and further behind here. Pack just dominating on reversing so far. Into the final drop-down section. It's going to be about a 0.2 lead here as he approaches it. Definitely a lot of time to work with, and Pack, the kind of control he has on his vehicle in the reverse section seems to be really well in his advantage here. It's going to be an attempt for an overtake, though, in this section from Gwen, who got a little bit more momentum going into it. We'll see across the finish line who's able to hold on to it, but it is going to be Pack who finds his way into another win back-to-back. He will be the first driver through, and now it's going to be a complete reset for the remaining drivers here as Scrapie looks to try and recover on the final run-through here of reversing. He still has that chance to make it through, and honestly, with Pack being out of the picture, there is some strong potential Scrapie could pick up this final run on reversing. It's definitely a strong map for Scrapie, and with Pack being the only driver who looked a little bit more consistent in terms of his performance time-wise over Scrapie, I definitely think Scrapie could pull it off here. This time around, Scrapie definitely having a much better start than what we saw on the previous 2 run-throughs, and now grabbing the early lead. Now the big question for Scrapie is, 1, can he hold on to it, and 2, will he be able to keep that reverse section clean on the final lap? That seems to be the biggest struggle for Scrapie, is that final drop down where he tries to hold it in reverse across the finish line. He has a lot of struggle in maintaining his consistency in that portion of the map. Right now, though, into the drop down, he's got about a 0.15 lead over Papu in second. He's looking to hold on to it. Gets the early flip around here, keeps it clean around the corner, and across the finish line it is going to be Mutta with the overtake, but Scrapie still clearly in the fight here for that first place overall. Starting off this lap, it is going to be Scrapie looking to make some more improvements on his lap time. So far, he's looking very clean around those corners here, keeping that consistency here into the start of lap number 2. It's definitely going to be a key to potentially walking away with a win. But it's got to be in our minds here, that last reverse section is going to be the deciding factor here. It was the deciding factor for a lot of races he's had on this track already, both in the final chance and earlier today in the round of 8. He has 0.2 seconds to work with. It's not enough time to go back and flip your car all the way around here, so he's going to have to risk it across the finish line in order to win this race. But against these drivers at this higher level of experience, he's got to be cautious on this one. Scrapie, though, he's going to do it. He gets the win here, keeps it clean across the finish line, and that's what you love to see. Scrapie, the second driver to pick up a win here in the round of 6, and now he is just 1 win away from the top 4 in the TMGL. But now the question is, what will map number 2 be? How soon are we going to see the dreaded slalom come out here in the top 6? Because Gwen, that tends to be a map choice that he makes. So, and Gwen is still here in the top 6, so it's very possible this is a map we see drawn, but this time around, it's going to be Bicycle here, which is another map that Scrapie is pretty comfortable on. So, honestly, I'd have to say Scrapie, I think he could probably do it here. You have 3 run-throughs guaranteed on Bicycle. I would say Scrapie has a strong chance of winning at least one of them, and that's all he needs at this point. No other driver remaining in this round has a win to work with yet, so Scrapie has that comfortability where he only needs one of these runs on Bicycle to be perfect. And as we've seen, Scrapie, this is a pretty strong map for him, so I think he can get the job done. Scrapie looking to do it here, though, in our first run-through on Bicycle today. Starting it off, it's going to be a battle amongst the top 3, Scrapie included here, alongside Gwen and Papu. Carl Jr. actually going to overtake as Papu goes down and out very early. And now the top 3 battle becomes Gwen, Scrapie, and Carl Jr. here so far on Bicycle. Carl Jr., though, this is definitely a stronger map for him compared to the previous. Gwen currently in the lead, though. And you can see how close these two guys are. Scrapie, though, I do think his lines are a little bit better than Gwen overall, so the overtake potential will be there for Scrapie here going into the boost section. And you can see it a little bit shakier coming out of it, and Scrapie has the momentum to try and overtake across the finish line, and Scrapie in lap number 1 gets the overtake, leading into lap number 2. Scrapie looking for the 1-2 punch to join pack and book his ticket into the top 4 here. And right now, he's well on track to make that happen. Starting to build a little bit of a lead gap, but you've got to watch out for those dreaded trees here on that mid-course jump. You've got to be careful for those, but right now, that tree could be the only thing standing between Scrapie and that spot in the top 4 here. Right now, keeping it clean, though, in lap number 2, extending the lead to about 0.2. And he just needs to hold on to it, and Scrapie, the timing is definitely on track to where it needs to be. Loses a little bit of momentum on that hill, but not enough to be overtaken here. About 0.18 now as he prepares for the final section of track. Scrapie, he is in a prime position, but look at the chase here. It's going to come down to the wire. 4 drivers directly on his heels. The overtake comes through, and it's going to come down to the wire here. Carl Jr. looking for the final pass. Scrapie keeps it clean on the corner, but it's not going to be enough. Carl Jr. overtakes in the last seconds of the race to find the first win here on Bicycle. Scrapie 0.04 off of it here. And now it's going to come down to the remaining 2 runs of Bicycle to see if Scrapie can get the job done. He showed the potential here in this first run through to do it. Carl Jr. just a little bit faster in this second lap. But right now, Scrapie, he's got a chance here to do it. Not one more time, but 2 more chances here on Bicycle to close out a spot in the top 4. Carl Jr., though, having a bad start. Already falling a little bit behind the center of the pack here. Scrapie, though, right in the middle of the top 3 right now. Fighting to try and grab the early advantage over Gwen now. And this is where the recovery has to be on point from Scrapie. He needs to try and just chip away at Gwen here and cut the time difference down. And this is where Scrapie might get a little bit riskier in some sections. He knows this might be the time to do it, to maybe grab that win. As we can see, Scrapie with the overtake around the corners here into the boost section. Gwen still trading back and forth here into the boost. Scrapie, though, keeping it a little bit cleaner, grabs the lead exchange here as we're closing out the first lap. It is still anybody's lead to close this race out with. Scrapie around the first lap will be in the lead, but he has a bit of a blunder here, and that's going to lose him about a half second. And Scrapie, I don't think he's going to be in the fight now for this. It's going to be a bit of an error from several drivers. Carl Jr. as well goes down and out. Mutta, the only driver not to make a mistake here, looking for knockout status, and he's going to find it. Mutta catches the other drivers off guard. I'm not sure what happened there, but every single driver goes down and out, and Mutta wins by knockout here in the second run-through. That's got to be, I'm not sure if it was server lag or what, but Bicycle's not a map we normally see these kind of blunders on. You expect it maybe on a map like Slalom, but like for Bicycle, that's almost unheard of to see these many drivers go down at that point. So I'm not sure what it was. I'm sure we'll find out from Scrapie later on, but that puts a lot of pressure now very evenly across the board here. Scrapie, Carl Jr., and Mutta already on 1 win each. Papu and Gwen yet to find one just yet, but Scrapie, he is out here looking to try and find this win on the final run of Piesicle, because if he has to go all the way to Slalom to try and cross this one into the top 4, it's going to be a much more difficult situation. This would be the map to get it done on. Arctic Split, another one that's pretty comfortable for Scrapie, but it is going to be a very tough one ahead here, as all 3 of these drivers out in the top 3 right now are very close to each other. Gwen, the only one here in the top 3 as well, yet to find himself with a victory here in the top 6. Scrapie, though, trying to cut down this time difference between himself and Carl Jr. And so far, he's just not able to keep up just yet. Carl keeping a hold of the lead here on Piesicle. And now Scrapie is looking for that recovery here in the final lap. He's going to have a chance to do it here, but he's going to have to keep these lines clean and lean here in the final lap. It's going to be a very close-knit race amongst the top 3 here. Mutta and Papu basically out of contention for this. Scrapie making some gains here around the last few corners, cutting just a little bit closer each and every checkpoint here. And now it's going to come down to the final few sections of track to decide the fate of all 3 of these drivers. Scrapie and Carl Jr. both looking to cross as that second driver into the next round here. Scrapie takes the inside cut, manages to avoid the tree here, and this is going to give him a slight momentum boost going into the final section of track. But will it be enough here? Look at how close all 3 of these drivers are into the boost section here. Scrapie goes for the little extra extension of boost here, but the risk may have been too much here for him to hold on, and it's not going to be a win for Scrapie. In fact, it's going to be a win for Carl Jr. here as he grabs a second, crossing the finish line with his second win on Piesicle. Very close race, but unfortunately for Scrapie, he's not able to get the job done just yet here on Piesicle. We'll go to another map here as Pack and Carl Jr. are now the first 2 drivers to be qualified in the top 4, but the big advantage that Scrapie has here is Gwen and Papu have yet to find a first victory, let alone be in position to grab 2. So looking at the remaining drivers, you definitely would have to say that it is going to be Scrapie as one of the advantages here, alongside Mutta with those extra wins to work with going into this next one. But it is going to be Slalom, guys, and this is where things get risky for Scrapie. I'd have to say, out of the maps in the pool for the finals, this is definitely one of his weaker maps. But as we saw in the head-to-head versus Yvonne, he can have a strong lap time on this map if he's able to keep that ice section clean. So I think for Scrapie, it's really all he needs is one good run out of these 3 to make it through. There's no way there's not going to be a spot up for grabs in one of these 3 runs. So all he needs is one good run on this track, and he will find himself into the top 4. But this is going to be a tough track for Scrapie to get it done on. Starting things off, everybody neck and neck here around the first couple of turns. To be expected at this point. The really big challenge here is maintaining your speed but not going over the edge on that section we just passed through. Then, of course, the dreaded ice hill towards the end of the track being the key factors here. The uphill slalom, though, is also a nice little curveball right here in the middle where some drivers aren't able to keep their consistency and hit those barriers. And as we see, that's Papu going down and out on a barrier hit. And I believe it's just going to be down between Gwen and Scrapie now in this first race. Gwen, he's going to have to keep it clean on the ice. The ice section here determines the fate of both of these drivers. Scrapie and Gwen both keeping it pretty clean, but Scrapie, I think, had a little bit stronger of a line there, taking a nice little inside cut and catching up to Gwen here as we go into lap number 2. Now Scrapie just needs to cut down the time and keep this one close and look for the overtake. Right now it's about a 0.3 separation, though. Scrapie looking for that potential recovery, but it's going to be a tough one. Gwen still trying to push that lead even further, but the question is now, can Gwen keep this consistency on his side? Gwen, he actually slowed down. I think he may have went a little bit on the edge there, losing some momentum, and now Scrapie has a chance going into the slalom here to close this lead gap and maybe take it all the way through into the ice hills. Going up the slalom, it is still going to be Scrapie down by about 0.3. Actually, a little bit of a slowdown here from Scrapie as well. So it's now extended about 0.7 seconds of lead time to Gwen here. But Gwen has to nail this section here. Otherwise, Scrapie will have a chance to take it back. But Gwen, he's going to keep it clean. Not quite as clean as Scrapie, but clean enough to grab the win here. And Gwen does manage the first one on slalom. But Scrapie, not too bad of a performance overall. He didn't have any issues on the ice hill. He had a little bit of time delay on one of the runs on that uphill slalom section, but honestly, overall, it's not a bad position for Scrapie to be in here. The win going to somebody who didn't have one yet, so it really just kind of equals the playing field rather than putting another driver through to the next round here. So Scrapie just has to keep it clean. Like I said, all he needs is one good run here on this track, and he will make it through. Right now, though, starting off our second race, Scrapie looking to grab the early lead this time around. Gwen not quite out in front early, but it's still too early to tell on this track, as well as everybody is well within the fight at this point. A lot of back and forth here as we go into the slalom section of the track. Gwen starting to slip, but still managing to stay toe-to-toe here with Scrapie. As you can see, Papu again on the uphill slalom goes down. That's another driver down and out. Scrapie, the only one keeping his momentum here, and actually pulls him ahead just a little bit going into the first section of ice. Kicking this one off, it's going to be Scrapie keeping it clean around the edges. It looks like Gwen may have gone down and out there, so it's going to be down to just Mutta and Scrapie here in the final lap, as the two drivers really with a shot here and making this one happen. But right now, Mutta, he does have a nice lead gap to work with, but he's going to have to keep it clean, just as Scrapie will here, in order to make it through, because whoever wins between these two drivers will be the third driver secured into the top four. Mutta starting to get a nice lead gap for himself. Scrapie almost has to hope for a mistake out of Mutta at this point in order to grab the overtake. Just cutting these lines clean may not be enough, with Mutta starting to pull further and further ahead. Scrapie, though, still keeping it clean in that first section of the slalom. Going into the uphill section, he's going to lose it there, and that is going to be it. Unfortunate timing there. Scrapie, he's going to be down and out. Mutta should be able to find the win at this point. Scrapie out of contention in this second run through, and Mutta, all he has to do is nail the ice here, and it will be his race. And there you have it. Mutta going to be securing himself as the third driver through to the next round. And now only one spot remains between Gwen, Scrapie, and Papu in that fight for the top four. And this is where it gets intense. We got through slalom. We had a hunch there that Scrapie probably wouldn't be able to make it through on that one, but he has one more chance here still. And this is where it gets interesting, because if Scrapie goes down on slalom, it's going to be a tough one, but it's an understandable one. But I think he could still do it here. Gwen and Papu have honestly been having a lot of issues on this map, and Gwen, he did have one clean run to make it through, but right now there is that last chance here for all of these drivers to make it through. The big important wildcard factor here, though, is if Papu wins, there is another map that comes into play here, but if not, this is it. So for Scrapie, he's got to push this to the limits, but at the end of the day, if he can't win, he needs to hope it's Papu who does. Right now, though, Scrapie does manage to grab the lead going into the first section of ice, trying to keep the time on his side here, but this is still insanely close here amongst all of these drivers. A very tight-knit race, to say the least, as we go into the final lap. It's a neck and neck amongst everyone in the top three. Right now, though, the pressure definitely being felt by all of these drivers. The real question is, who will be able to close this out? Gwen looking clean, a little bit of a lead on his side right now, but Scrapie and Papu definitely well within striking distance here as they go forward. Scrapie trying to run an inside cut here, keeps himself with that momentum and actually extends to a slight lead here. Could this be what Scrapie needed to move forward here? Papu starting to fall behind, but Scrapie going into the uphill slalom loses that ground here, and now it's all about consistency for all of these drivers in the remainder of this race. It is neck and neck. Gwen going a little bit down there, And it's going to be Papu versus Scrapie now for the win. Either way, Scrapie is safe after this race if it comes down to these two drivers. But Papu going to be slightly inside going into the final section of track. It's going to be a DNF for Gwen, but Papu going across the finish line is going to be just a little bit faster. But now we're going to a map 4 situation here. And a 3-way tie, which means whoever wins the first run on the next map will be the 4th driver through. Maximum pressure here, and it's going to be a 1 race decider for that final spot. Scrapie, Gwen, and Papu, only 1 driver will make it through to the next round, but we'll see who's able to make that one happen here, because right now it is going to be maximum pressure here to kick off this next map, and as we've seen, it is going to be a very tough feat for Scrapie to do, but he's been resilient so far. And Arctic Split, the map where he closed out a victory against Yvonne on, could be the map to get it done. 10 seconds of warm-up, and then we are right into the action. Before we hop in, a quick shout-out to our partners XP Sports and Logitech G. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. But guys, it's time to put the pedal to the metal and see if Scrapie can do it once again under the pressure, looking to close out a performance and find a place into the top 4. Papu already with an error, and it's just going to be Gwen and Scrapie head-to-head to start this one off. This could be pretty big, as Papu's already down and out. Scrapie just needs to battle Gwen here for a shot at the top 4. And it's all going to come down to this singular map's performance. Scrapie, he has the cleaner lines, I'd say, on this map to do it. But it's going to involve mitigating any risk he can here as well. Goes for the wide stance on the pillar, not taking any major risks at this point in time. But Scrapie, he is already pulling ahead early, 0.34 seconds in the prime position of this race at the moment. Papu basically has no chance except to try and hope everybody else makes a mistake. Scrapie, though, this is the section that matters the most. Has to keep these clean uphill executions on his side. It's up to 1.2. Gwen, is he going to go down and out here? Scrapie looking to push it a little bit further. Scrapie going for the knockout for the top 4. He needs one more checkpoint to do it. This is going to be it. Scrapie's going to win by a knockout here. And there you have it. Scrapie wins by KO, finds himself in the top 4. And that is an insane performance there from Scrapie, stepping it up under the pressure once again and getting the job done here. Scrapie now moves into the top 4 to take on Mutta, Carl Jr., and Pack for a shot at the title of season champion here. What an incredible performance it's been so far, and Scrapie continues to impress under the pressure and find a way to fight another day here, guys. We are going to take a quick moment while we prepare for that round of 4, but Scrapie has once again shown us that he has the fight and he has the drive here to make it all the way to the top here. Top 4 guaranteed now at this point for Scrapie, but we'll see what he can do to potentially push this even further and maybe, just maybe, go all the way to becoming a season champion here. The 3 drivers remaining, though, are going to be extremely difficult now to go up against. You've seen Pack and Carl Jr. lead the pack throughout the day here, so they are going to be, I would say, the favorites going into this next round to potentially make it through to that final. But Scrapie, he's shown a very strong performance as well, and maybe if he just brings his A game, he could see himself as one of those 2 drivers in the finals today. It'd be an incredible way to see the season come to a close if Scrapie can make it to that final. But there's one more set of maps in the way here, guys. But before we get there, we are going to take a quick moment to just get everything prepared, guys. But right now, Scrapie has to be pretty happy with how things have gone up till this point, regardless, I would say. I mean, going from final chance to top 4 is something I don't think anyone, Scrapie included, probably would have expected at this point, but he's already been able to do that, and in itself, it's a great accomplishment to be very proud of. But right now, we'll see if we can go even further here into the finals. Right now, looking for that shot to make the top 2 and potentially become your TMGL champion. And you know what? Maybe he saw it on the screen yesterday when he saw that champion, triggered something in him to maybe make that happen again today. We'll see when the day closes where Scrapie finishes things out, but like I've said, regardless at this point, very excited to see how this one ends, but happy nonetheless that Scrapie has already fought to an incredible length just to get here. Guys, we're going to take a quick break here for a few moments while we get things prepared for the Final Four. Stay tuned, guys. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be back in just a few short moments to kick off the top four.
legs are standing still. It's like you're stuck in a nightmare, but you keep doing it for the thrill. Well, this is reality, you only live it once, so wake up from your dream. But just for tonight, let the lines get blurred, let your thoughts be free, let your thoughts be free. Just for tonight, let your thoughts be free. Just for tonight, would you come with me?
Alright guys, we are back, and it is top 4 time. At the start of yesterday, if you had asked if I thought we would be here, honestly, I did not think it was possible for Scrapie to make it so far under so much pressure, but he has done it here, guys. He's in the top 4, guaranteed, worst case scenario, but he still has a chance right now here as well to still become the Trackmania champion here for winter 2021. So we're going to hop in here. Everybody's getting warmed up and ready to go, but right now the big question is, can the final chance winner come all the way through and take home the championship title here? It's going to be exciting to see, guys, and I'm very excited to see if Scrapie can go all the way to the finals here. And honestly, it's just been an amazing story for Scrapie. I mean, you look at the regular season, Scrapie finished 14th in the regular season. He definitely had a rough go of it this time around, and somehow he's come back swinging here in the last chance and in today, and just proving a lot in what he can do on the track, and it's been incredible to see unfold. But now, guys, this is where the going gets tough. Starting this one off, it is going to be slalom as well, map number 1. Not a map that Scrapie enjoys too much here, but he's had some time now today to warm up on it, and we'll see what he can do here to kick off this first one. And in this format, guys, you are scored by map now. Not just 2 wins gets you through, it's the overall map score for each driver that will decide if they make it into the finals. And in order to make it, you have to win 2 maps to secure your spot, not just 2 victories. So right now, Scrapie will be leading it here at the start of slalom, but as you can see, Pack hungry for that overtake going into the first icy hill. And this is going to be a bit of a nail-biter here in the opener on this one. Pack taking it a little bit too high. Meanwhile, Mutta, with a perfect inside cut, actually finds himself in the front here going into lap number 2, but Carl Jr. slides by Pack as Pack flies into the barrier. What a way to get things going here on this first map. Pack basically down and out now. Scrapie still in the fight amongst the top 3, looking to see what he can do here, but one less driver standing in his way of a potential victory here for the first time on slalom. Right now, though, the pressure definitely on all 3 of these drivers out in front. Who will be the first driver to pick up a win? It's another driver going down and out. It's just down to Scrapie and Mutta now as Carl Jr. takes the fall as well. Scrapie with the inside cut. Mutta starting to fall behind going into the ice hill as well. And Scrapie, it's going to be Mutta who I think went over the edge there. Scrapie has this in the bag. He's going to take the knockout victory. Scrapie wins on slalom, map number 1. In the top 4 by KO. What a way for it to go down. And Scrapie is now the first to pick up a race win here on slalom. Of all maps for Scrapie to do well in the final 4 on, This is not at all what I was expecting here. All three other drivers having a blunder in that first go of it here gives a lot of opportunity for Scrapie to somehow grab the match point here on slalom. And now Scrapie looking for the 1-2 punch here in his second go of it on slalom. We'll see if he can find a way to make that happen. He's looked very clean here so far this weekend, but now more than ever, he's got to keep this one as close to perfect as he can if he truly wants to grab this point on slalom. As you can see this time around though, the pressure not quite getting to these drivers out in front of him just yet. Scrapie looking to just try and keep it clean, taking it on the inside here as we go into the first icy hill. It is still anybody's race to take away. Scrapie trying to keep this one clean up into the ice, keeps it nice and tight there, and still in the fight. Still coming out of it, it's going to be Scrapie a little bit behind that first place position. Pack currently leading as we cross the finish line for the first time here in race number 2. Scrapie about 0.3 off that first place, has to get some momentum on his side here in this final lap if he wants a chance to take this with 2 in a row. As we saw though in the previous race, he was able to do it in the final lap there, but it did happen at the cost of a lot of other drivers' mistakes, which we aren't seeing too many of here in this second race. Right now into the uphill slalom, Scrapie still just outside of reach of that first place position. We'll see if he can hold on and potentially make some work of it here going into the final ice hill. He keeps the momentum on his side though going into it, so he's actually able to catch up with the middle of the pack here going into it. And it's all going to come down to the execution on this final turn from all the drivers here. Everyone going for a bit of an inside cut, but this time around it looks like it may be Carl Jr. to get the job done here. Going across the finish line, that will be the case here. Carl Jr. picks up the second win here on slalom, tying himself up with Scrapie to keep this one close. Still anybody's for the taking here on slalom. Scrapie and Carl, though, still with a slight advantage overall. Hopping back on, though, to see what happens for race number 3 here. Surprisingly, Pack unable to pick up a win just yet. And if we're looking at the stats so far in the finals, he's actually been the first person to secure himself into the next round every previous round so far leading up to this one. So it'd be interesting to see Pack in a position where he's fighting from behind, because he hasn't really had to do so just yet. But Scrapie this time around off to a nice early lead here in this third run through of slalom, already extending over 0.1 in front of the rest of the pack here. Going into the uphill slalom section though, this is where he's going to have to clean things up. This tends to be the section where Scrapie is a little bit slower than the rest of the pack, but the rest of the sections seem to be pretty strong for him coming out of it. As you can see, Pack swings into the lead there during the uphill slalom. Scrapie trying to recover now, going into the ice hill for the first time. Right now, though, a clean cut, but not quite as good timing compared to the rest of the pack here in that ice section. And it is going to be Pack who takes the lead going into lap number 2 here. Scrapie looking for that potential recovery in the final lap, but right now has to drive picture perfect to make that happen. As we can see, though, he is gaining a little bit of ground going out of these last couple of turns here. And a little bit of a mishap there. It's actually Pack who looked like he went down and out, but Carl's actually the one to slide around that corner there. So Pack actually in the lead going into the uphill slalom here. Carl basically out of the fight at this point. And Scrapie now moves into second to try and challenge Pack for the race win here. And this is where it's going to be extremely close going into the final ice. It's going to be a neck-and-neck battle here between Pack and Scrapie across the finish line. Who's going to be faster? It looks like it is going to be Pack who gets a little bit cleaner through that final turn and will find himself through with his first win of the top 4. And there you have it. It's going to be Pack with a nice win for himself here. And now Pack, Carl, and Scrapie are all tied up with 1 win each here. Still no driver yet to find that second win for themselves here in the final 4. Mutta, though, still hasn't picked up even one just yet, so he's going to have to step up here as well if he wants to try and find that. Scrapie, though, going to be leading at the start here once again. The biggest problems for Scrapie, though, honestly seem to be stemming from that uphill slalom. Scrapie, though, cuts it too close inside. He's down and out for this one, and slalom is pretty much going to be done for Scrapie now at this point. That's going to be an unfortunate blunder, but Scrapie, I believe it'll be the end of the road on slalom for him, unless Mutta gets the win, and then we're at a dead even tie amongst all of the drivers here on slalom. But right now, Scrapie just looking to see what he can do here to get a little bit more comfortable, considering there could be an additional run-through of this track before it's all said and done in the round of 4. Right now, though, it's going to be a battle between Carl and Pack out in front here, looking to be that first driver to cross the finish line with a map win today. Right now, though, Pack starting to pick up the pace. Pack actually is going to be able to win this one via knockout here. The remaining drivers all spinning out there on that ice hill, and there you have it. Pack, he's going to win by knockout here and be the first driver to secure 2 wins here in the top 4 and push himself one step closer to that final 2. So it will be Pack as the first map victory of the day. But to be fair, for slalom, I have to say it's not that bad of a performance from Scrapie. He actually won the first one. Unfortunately, couldn't close it out, but still, if that's the worst we're going to see of Scrapie, I'm excited to see what's coming next. Here we have it, though. Map number 2 on the way. I believe this one was Carl's pick, so Bicycle will be on the table for map number 2. All of these drivers looking to try and make their impact known, but Scrapie still in need of that first map victory on the board. Pack, though, looking to be once again the first driver to secure himself into the next round, though. Scrapie trying to maintain his composure here as he does have an advantage here going into the early portion of this track. Pack and Scrapie leading pretty comfortably right now, as we do see Mutta, though, start to slide up as Scrapie not quite keeping up with Pack here in terms of pacing. Still within reach, though, but Bicycle, a pretty strong map for Pack here, and that's the hardest thing about this one. Pack being in the fight makes it so hard for Scrapie here, even on a map he's strong on. Pack, he is just a very overall consistent performing driver, and he's really going to put Scrapie to the test in this one. Right now, though, everybody kind of neck and neck as we go into the boost section. It is going to be Scrapie right around 3rd at the moment. Carl Jr., though, I have to say, out of all the drivers here, I think he takes his approach really comfortably in that boost section, and he is able to recover a lot of time in that one. Scrapie, though, taking a nice little inside cut here to kick off the second lap. Actually, Scrapie moving now into first around this last checkpoint here. So Scrapie not in a bad position so far here on the final lap in our first edition of Bicycle here. About 0.1 extended over Pack, but still definitely not enough to feel safe just yet. So far, though, Scrapie maintaining some consistency, takes a little bit of a risky turn, though, and actually loses some momentum around that last corner. And now we see here Pack able to catch up alongside Carl Jr., and the overtake potential very high for Carl Jr. now. Still very close, neck and neck going into the boost section, though. You've got to wonder if Carl has this in the bag, because Carl Jr., I think, has the faster time compared to most drivers in this boost section. So Carl in the position to win unless Scrapie can find a way in this last section of track to sneak ahead. Scrapie goes for the inside cut here, but it's still going to be Carl with enough momentum to get the job done. Scrapie takes the second place finish here on our first run of Bicycle. So Carl Jr. looking to grab himself his first map point here in the top 4. Scrapie still not able to find one for himself just yet on Bicycle after that first race, though. He did look pretty comfortable, and I think potentially in a position where Scrapie could find himself a map win here if he's able to clean it up just a little bit. As we can see here right now, though, Scrapie looking to try and get that early lead on his side, but so far it is Carl Jr. out in front. Pack, though, looking for the overtake as well. Everybody kind of neck and neck here, I'd have to say. Mutta really the only driver who's a little bit behind, but even he is now caught up to Scrapie's position, as Scrapie is a little bit shaky around the last couple of turns here. Still anyone's race to take away here on Bicycle. Scrapie, though, that is going to be a tree to the face there. Unfortunately, this should mean that Scrapie is down and out in this one. Now it's going to be up to the drivers out in front, being Mutta and Carl Jr. going head-to-head to try and win this race. Both Pack and Scrapie actually hit the tree there as well. So really, Carl Jr. is in the big position here to potentially win against Mutta. Carl Jr. going into the second lap takes the lead over Mutta as well. And now it's going to be between these two drivers to see who can find the potential win here. Mutta, though, trying to prevent Carl from having much of a chance here on this one as Mutta starts to pull a bit ahead here in the midsection of the track. Going into the uphill here, it's going to be Carl Jr. falling behind about 0.2 seconds overall. Still trying to find that recovery, but Carl Jr. in that final boost section, we've seen him recover a lot more than just this gap difference. And this is where Carl may have the opportunity to take the win. It's going to be neck and neck, though, Carl versus Mutta. But if Carl wins here 2 in a row, this map is already over, and Bicycle is no longer an option for Scrapie to try and pull back on, and he'll have to do it in the remaining 3 maps here. Right now, though, it is going to be Carl Jr. going into it with a slight advantage here, and this could be enough for him to cross through with a 2-0 on Bicycle. Going out of it, though, it's going to be neck and neck, but Carl gets the job done. And there you have it. It will be Carl winning this one 2-0 and finding himself his first point of the top 4 as well. So Carl going to tie things up with Pack 1 point each. Scrapie and Mutta, though, still looking for those first points for themselves here in the top 4. But we're going on to map number 3 now, which I believe will be the pick of Mutta here. So we'll see what he decided to go with. Scrapie's pick will be map number 4 as well. I believe Scrapie picked Arctic Split for his. And we'll see what map number 4 is. Or actually, map number 3 might end up being Arctic Split here. So I believe 4 will end up being the choice of Mutta then. Because I believe this was Scrapie's pick. It'd be an interesting one to see how it comes down to. I believe reversing will be map number 4, though. And then the final map, if we need it, would be Frozen Fridges. Right now, though, it is going to be an intense one for all of these drivers. Scrapie starting it off in the back of the pack early on in map number 3. Not looking too great at the start here, but still well within distance to recover as we make our way into the midsection here. Scrapie already looking as we go into the large drop-down turn there for some recovery, and he's already moved from 4th into 2nd, so Scrapie not looking too bad. And Arctic Split, I would say, is definitely a very strong map for Scrapie to have potential to win it here. I think if there was ever a map he needed to grab a map point on, I think this is the one he needs to win. Going into the uphill section, he does maintain his speed, and the lead comes along with it here. Pack not too far behind, though, and it's really going to be a battle between Scrapie and Pack here, but unfortunately, not a full down and out for Scrapie, but enough for Pack to steal the lead here. As we go into lap number 2, Scrapie's going to have to recover quite a bit of time. About a full second separates here. Not enough for the knockout just yet from Carl Jr., but it is going to be a tough one here for Scrapie to recover. Carl Jr. going head-to-head with Scrapie here in the final lap. Scrapie about 0.9 off. He basically needs Carl to make a large mistake here. Otherwise, the first win will be going to Carl. Scrapie taking all the opportunities to cut inside and shave the time difference down, but he's going to need a lot more than that in order to win this. He needs Carl to make a mistake. Otherwise, it is going to be this map going into Carl's hands. Scrapie takes it down to about 0.75. Going into the uphill section, Scrapie has to be perfect, and Carl has to make a mistake, though, here. That is the only chance that Scrapie has to recover this much time in the final sections. Going into it, though, we'll see if that is the reality here. This final section is all Scrapie has in store to try and make up this time. Carl Jr. keeps it clean, though, around the first few turns. Only one remaining here as well. Scrapie, he cuts down the time, but not enough to full circle it into a win. And there you have it. The first race here on Arctic Split goes the way of Carl Jr. Scrapie, though, he had a small mistake that pushed him behind Carl. If that had not happened, there's a very real world where Scrapie would have won that race. So now Scrapie, if he can keep it a little bit cleaner, I definitely think the second race could be his for the taking. I know when I talked to him yesterday, he said that first section, that is the big section that his time difference comes from on this track. He tends to be a little bit slower on any ice sections compared to the other drivers, but the rest of the track is pretty comfortable for him if he just avoids any mistakes in that uphill section, which he has cleaned up quite a bit from what we saw in the regular season out of him. So there's definitely some ample opportunities for Scrapie to win it here on Arctic Split. As we can see, though, a very close-knit race so far with Mutta in a slight lead in lap number 1 here. Right now, though, as they prepare to go into the uphill section, Scrapie looking to try and edge away a little bit more time on the clock for himself over Mutta to work with. As they go into it, it will be chipped out away nicely, as it's just going to be neck and neck between Mutta and Scrapie going into the uphill section. Scrapie looking for the overtake here as well, but the way Scrapie takes this is a little bit faster, but it's also a little bit riskier, so there's more room for error from Scrapie here as well compared to the other driver's approach. But this time around, it's going to pay off here. Mutta goes down and out, and Carl and Pack aren't really within striking distance just yet, but it's not enough room for Scrapie to have won just yet. There's no knockout potential on the table so far. He's got to pull it to 1.5 seconds in order to get to that threshold. So for Scrapie, though, it's just about keeping it clean at this point. He doesn't have to take any risks to try and improve his time. He just needs to maintain this distance of separation over Carl Jr. and Pack. Pack, though, takes the DNF now as well. It's really just Carl Jr. as the only driver with a chance here to win. Even then, Carl seems to be slipping as well, down to 0.94. Scrapie pulling further and further ahead here. As we can see, though, it is going to be a tough one here for Carl Jr. to recover, but Scrapie looking very primed as we go into the uphill. In the uphill section here, though, it is going to be Scrapie losing a little bit of ground because he's taking a safer approach, but I don't think Carl has the time to recover this completely, so Scrapie should be able to close this one out here around the final turn, takes it safe, and gets the job done. That's a nice win there for Scrapie here, and now he ties it up with Carl to potentially have a chance at taking this map away. Very nicely done, though, for Scrapie in his performance here on Arctic Split. Right now, though, the question is, can he hold on and grab the map point, or will Carl Jr. be able to strike down and grab that second point here for himself? So far, Pack and Mutta haven't found any victories here on this race, but maybe they can pull it off here, as right now they do have a clean start for themselves, but as we can see, it's going to be Scrapie, the one lagging behind here just a tad at the start. Overall, Scrapie, though, performing very well throughout the weekend, but still trying to vie for that spot in the top 2 is extremely challenging here. Carl Jr., though, trying to grab that lead. Carl and Scrapie both looking for that map victory in this race. Going into the uphill section, though, Scrapie's approach, I think, plays to his advantage just a little bit here. The other drivers seem to take it with a little bit more speed. Scrapie doesn't take it with quite as much speed, but he has these inside cuts that help mitigate that time lost here, and it actually tends to play to his advantage. And as you can see, Pack struggles in the uphill a bit, and it's already Scrapie in a position to catch up here in the final lap. Pack down and out here, but Carl Jr., that's the one you got to look out for. If he wins, it's already over on Arctic Split, which, as I've mentioned, this is one of the maps I feel like Scrapie needs to win. This and reversing, I think, are the shot he has for his 2 points. I don't think Frozen Fridges is going to be a strong map here for Scrapie, so really, he needs to try and find a way to recover this one quickly. Otherwise, it could be a situation where the finals are taken away from him and fall into the hands of either Carl Jr. or Pack here. Right now, though, this final lap looking just a little bit cleaner here for Mutta, who's out in front at the moment. That wouldn't necessarily be the worst situation if Scrapie's not able to win here, but right now Scrapie, he's got a chance to go for the gold here and make it happen. Going into the final boost section, it's going to be Scrapie, Carl Jr., and Mutta going head-to-head, but if Carl Jr. wins, the map is over, and Carl Jr. is the first driver in the final. Scrapie hits the wall. That's going to be it here. It's going to be Carl Jr. versus Mutta now. Mutta has to win, otherwise Scrapie will not have a chance to take it on this map. But it's going to be Carl Jr. who finds the wind here to get it done. And there you have it. Carl will be the first driver to qualify for the finals, now leaving it up to Pack, Scrapie, and Mutta. Scrapie, though, at a disadvantage here going into the next two maps because Pack already has a win on the first map to work with. Carl, though, finding his way in nicely, but like I said at the beginning of the day, if you had to predict the two drivers who were going to make it all the way through, Pack and Carl, I think is a pretty safe prediction for who the finals would be. Scrapie, though, I think he's the only driver that could stand in the way at this point. Mutta honestly hasn't looked the best lap for lap in the top four here. Scrapie, though, he's had some close moments, and if you guys recall how the day started for Scrapie here in the finals, it was with some very strong performances on this very map here. So if there was ever a chance for Scrapie to outperform Pack map for map, I think this is the best map for Scrapie to do so. The big wild card for me, though, is if Scrapie wins this, Frozen Fridges is the next map, and that is one where I think it could really go into the hands of anyone. Pack, though, still a strong driver on reversing himself. I believe this was Pack's pick earlier on in the day in one of the previous rounds, so it's obviously a map that he's also very confident on, and the biggest thing to keep in mind here is the reverse section. I think is where Pack is a little bit stronger than Scrapie. Going into that finish line, I think Pack just has a little bit better vehicle control here, and you can see it already in the first lap coming through to be a little bit true here, as Pack's vehicle control coming out of the reversing section just giving him that slight edge over Scrapie in the first lap. So Scrapie, if he wants to play it a little bit safer in that section, he needs to find ways in the rest of this track to make up some more time. Right now, though, it is going to be Scrapie continuing to apply pressure nicely here in the second lap on reversing. It is going to come down to the wire, though, because Pack is hot on his heels here, and Pack, with the strength he has in the reverse section of the map, that could be enough to make up this time disadvantage. And already going into it, Scrapie a little bit shaky around that last turn, gives a small advantage to Pack going into the drop down here. Coming into it, all three of these drivers neck and neck. Mutta, though, coming out of nowhere looking for the snipe here, but he's actually going to bank himself on the wall, and Mutta is down and out. Scrapie trying to cross the finish line here, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately. Banks the wall, and it will be Pack who holds on to the lead still. I think either way, Scrapie probably would have lost there because Pack, he's able to keep that clean across the finish line, and that's a huge difference for him to have going his way. Pack able to grab the first win. It's not over just yet for Scrapie, but this is match point pressure here in the semifinals. The top four here. Scrapie, he's had an incredible fight to make it to this position, but now the pressure is at its peak to try and take it one step further. He's going to have to win 2 in a row here before Pack can take one in order to get the map point. On top of that, he would have to win this map, and he would have to go on to win Frozen Fridges as well in order to close this one out. Not a likely story, but still, there is some hope that it could happen still. Reversing, this is where it's all got to start here. Pack a little bit slower this time around as well. Scrapie with a good early start here, but he's got to hang on to it. This section is where Pack is able to overtake very confidently, and he's going to go for it again. You can see the line from Pack just a little bit smoother around the corners here. Still anyone's race to take as they go out into the next lap. It's going to be Pack with the slight overtake here. And Pack, he's got his eyes set on the prize here. Scrapie, it is do or die, and this is the lap that could decide his fate in the top four here. Pack holding on to it by just a hair. Scrapie looking for the overtake. Not able to find it just yet. It's do or die for Scrapie and his hopes at making it through to the final two here. Can he make it happen? Right now, though, Pack is still maintaining the consistency he needs to close out this race with a victory. Scrapie He's going to be hoping it can somehow happen for himself here going into the drop down. Scrapie, he's going to take it a little bit further inside. Pack hits the wall, but still recovers it, I think, to make it through. Where's the time difference going to show here, though? Pack, that was a really shaky landing coming out of it. Scrapie, he's going to get it. Pack hit the wall here, and there you have it. Scrapie wins. And there we have it. Pack did indeed hit the wall there. Scrapie with the knockout win takes this map away. But not just yet. It is going to be one more needed here. And this is what it all comes down to. Scrapie versus Pack on reversing here, fighting for survival and their shot in the final two alongside Carl Jr., the reigning champion here of the TMGL. Mutta, though, still a wild card in the picture. He could definitely shake things up with a win himself here. Scrapie, though, has the early lead advantage to work with, but is it enough to feel comfortable just yet? Surely not at this point. Going into it here as they prepare for the first drop-down reverse section. It is going to be a very small lead for Scrapie, but Pack, he is the cleaner driver in this section consistency-wise. But Pack, did he just go down and out here? Is Scrapie going to be able to have an advantage? And it is Pack who actually went down and out there. It's just Mutta and Scrapie now in the fight for this race. If there was ever a time for Scrapie to have a chance to close out the map, this is it. Mutta versus Scrapie for the map. And this is what it all comes down to. Scrapie trying to maintain his composure to catch up to Mutta and have a chance. But right now, Mutta, he does have a decent gap to work with, but not enough to feel comfortable just yet. Here we have Scrapie, though, right behind him here, fighting for a chance at this map. If Scrapie wins here, Pack will lose the map to Scrapie. But it's going to come down to Mutta's performance. If Mutta can hold on here, it's going to go to a final showdown here on reversing. Scrapie, though, looking for every opportunity he can to chip away at this time and somehow get the overtake here into the final reversing section. It's going to be Scrapie versus Mutta for the fate of the map here. Scrapie looking to have the stronger cuts on the inside corner. Mutta taking the slight advantage here, though, as they go into it. It's going to be up to Scrapie to try and do it. He's going for the reverse against Mutta. Can he get it around the corner? Scrapie, he's going to do it in the last seconds of the race. He gets the overtake. Mutta takes it too safe, and Scrapie takes the win here and the map along with it, and lives to take this to a next map situation in order to potentially qualify. It's going to be Pack and Scrapie still fighting it out now on frozen fridges as we continue this one forward. What a performance there from Scrapie to keep the dream alive here, though, guys. Now, can he do it again? One map here is all it's going to take here for Scrapie to see Carl Jr. in the finals, and what a way it would be to continue forward here. Frozen Fridges, though, definitely a tough map for Scrapie, so I don't want to say he's got this one locked in, because Pack, I would say historically, is a little bit stronger on this map if you look at his past performances here, so it's definitely a situation where Scrapie, he's got to come out swinging here in this final map in order to get the job done. Kicking it off, though, it is going to be Mutta with the early lead here. Still anyone's race to take away, though, but Pack being behind Scrapie is exactly what you want to see at the start of this race. Going into the midsection of track, Scrapie looking to maintain and potentially get that pass here. He's going to take the nice inside cut here, gets the overtake, and he's going to be in the lead just for the moment here, but he has to hold on going into the drop-down section here. Mutta gets a little bit more speed going into it, able to catch up. Pack starting to maintain his ground and potentially vie for that positioning as well. Still anyone's for the taking as we continue forward here. Scrapie a little bit slow in the drop-down section, though. Could come back to be a potential difficulty for him later on. Still neck and neck here amongst the top three as we go into the finish line here for lap number 1. Second lap, here we go. It's going to be Mutta with a pretty confident lead here right now. Pack, though, did he just spin out on the wall? Pack's going to be down and out here. It's just Scrapie and Mutta. Pack, that's going to be a bit of a blunder from him. And now Scrapie has that chance to take this one away. Scrapie versus Mutta for the fate of the map here. Scrapie, though, in a huge need to grab this map away. Mutta, though, looking for his first map. Scrapie goes for the inside cut. It's not enough to take this one away just yet here, and now it's going to be up to Scrapie to try and take this one away in the final drop-down section. We'll see if he can make it happen, but Mutta has a big lead gap to work with, so it's going to take a lot of momentum here for Scrapie to somehow get this one back in his control. Mutta and Scrapie down to the wire here, though. Scrapie looking to try and do everything he can here, but Mutta, he's got a big advantage going into the final few turns here to work with. And there you have it. Mutta is going to take this first race. Scrapie just behind him. And now it's just going to be up to Pack and Scrapie to answer back here. Mutta, he's still in a position where he can keep everybody on their toes here, and he's not out of the fight either. If Mutta wins this map, we go even further to a 6th map here, which I believe would be the first map of the pool going back to that one, but I'd have to see for sure to know exactly what happens in that circumstance. But there is a potential for another map to be drawn here now if Mutta wins back-to-back here. Pack, though, starts it off with the early lead as we continue forward. Scrapie looking to try and make something happen here, but he's actually going to have a bit of an error around that last corner, resulting in about a second of space between him and the rest of the remaining drivers here. So at this point, Scrapie, I think he almost wants Mutta to win this and take this to a new map where he might have a better potential of winning here, because if Pack wins, there's a chance Pack could pull this off right here on Frozen Fridges. And for Scrapie, I think the better approach for him to have a chance here is actually Mutta winning this one 2-0. Scrapie pretty much down and out of this one, so Mutta versus Pack here out in the front. And honestly, right now, I'm kind of hoping Mutta takes this one away. Scrapie having that last map to work with could be what he needs to get the job done, but if Pack gets the overtake here and then wins again, that could be it. But Pack, he's gone down and out as well. Mutta's going to win this one in a 2-0 sweep, and just like that, we're going to a final map showdown here, guys. Big congratulations to Mutta, though, here, coming out of nowhere and winning it on Frozen Fridges, and now we're all tied up here going into another map here. I'm not sure how they're going to select what the odd map out would be in this situation, though. Will it be the first map? Are we going to go full circle back to the start here? Or is it going to be a pick of maybe Carl Jr. for already qualifying? I'm not sure how they would decide this in this circumstance, so I'm interested to see what map gets drawn here. And here we have it, guys. The moment of truth. And this is where it will all be decided. We're going back to slalom for map number 6. Scrapie, this is historically not his map to shine on, but if there was ever a time for him to step up and hit it out of the park here with a stellar performance, this is the time to do it. Pack, Scrapie, and Mutta all one map away from victory, but only one of these drivers will join Carl Jr. in our finals here. And Scrapie is looking to do everything he can to be that driver in the hot seat against him. Starting this one off, it is neck and neck. Pack and Scrapie both eager to try and get this one done, but slalom, a very strong map here for Pack. And right now, he's off to the start he needs to make it happen. Scrapie just a bit behind, but it's all going to come down to who can perform on this big icy hill here. This is the biggest key factor in determining the success of these drivers. Scrapie takes it a much cleaner approach, and he will have a chance to grab the advantage going into this lap, but Mutta actually takes it the cleanest out of everybody, and Mutta comes out of nowhere as well and now puts himself in the fight. Everybody dead even here in the second lap. Right now, though, Pack does have a nice lead of momentum building for himself, up to about 0.15 over Scrapie and Mutta here. Things getting very close, though, and this is where drivers are going to start to take gambles and start to risk things to potentially walk away with the win, because that may be the only way this gets done for Scrapie here in the position he's in. He may have to take a risk and just go for it. Going into the uphill slalom, Scrapie still a bit behind the two drivers out in front here. Has to hope for the chance here going into the icy turn. This is where everyone is hoping for their perfect performance to hit right when it needs to here. Scrapie, though, going to get the overtake on to Pack, but Pack still or onto Mutta, but Pack still going to be able to walk away with the win here on the first run. And Pack, he is one step away from taking this one all the way through to the finals, but Scrapie, he still has a chance here to fight for his life in the top 4. Pack with one win under his belt. Scrapie looking to push it one step further and take himself into the finals, though. This is his chance to do it. Pack, if he wins this, it's going to be down and out for Scrapie here. Here we have it, though. Scrapie with the early lead, but definitely not a secure lead just yet. Up to about 0.15 around the last few corners. Pack, though, starting to pick up the pace and catch up pretty close here indeed. Pack, though, a little bit behind the overall group here. Going into the uphill, though, it's going to be Scrapie. That's honestly the cleanest I've seen him do that section all weekend here, so definitely a strong performance from Scrapie to try and push the envelope a bit further here on this track. Going into the uphill section, Scrapie pretty clean around the corner as well on this first lap. He's going to be able to maintain his positioning, I believe, going into lap number 2. But now the question is, can he close it? He hits the flagpole, though, and that could be the bitter end here for Scrapie on this map. Now the question is, will Mutta win to keep the dream alive for Scrapie, or will Pack overtake to grab the final victory he needs to secure this map? Pack, though, he is behind Mutta in this situation. If Mutta wins, this takes it one step further, and Scrapie will have a chance to qualify through to the final. But right now, it's a heated battle between Pack and Mutta here for this victory. Mutta, though, he seems to have the slight advantage right now, but Pack looking to try and play a little bit risky to get the overtake here going into it. Pack keeps the momentum on his side. It's up to Mutta here to try and close this one out neck and neck into the final ice turn. Whoever has the cleaner performance here in this section is going to take it. A nice inside cut from Mutta keeps him a little bit in the fight here, but it's going to come down to the wire here. Pack versus Mutta. Who's going to cross it first? But it's Mutta who hits the flagpole as well, and Pack will move forward into the finals to join Carl Jr. here. What a way for it to go down. But when it's all said and done, it is unfortunately going to be the end here for Scrapie. No chance into the finals. But Scrapie, you've got to be proud of how he performs, finishing with, I believe, a 3rd place here overall. So, honestly, a very solid performance from Scrapie. I don't want to sell that short, to say the least. Coming into the final chance yesterday, he was 14th in the regular season, proving everybody wrong in the final chance, wins it confidently. Coming into today, nobody even thought Scrapie would make it past the first round, let alone the top 4. So Scrapie, he's got to be proud of what he's been able to do here. Even though he wasn't able to make the final here, still manages a top 4 placement here in the TMGL Winter 2021 edition. So a huge shout out to Scrapie for an incredible performance, honestly, on the season. Blowing away, I think, anybody's expectations here this weekend. So definitely have to be proud of what he's been able to accomplish here. But Carl Jr. and Pack will be the top 2 here going head to head. We are going to take a quick pause here while we get prepared for this final lobby, but it will be Carl Jr. and Pack going head to head for the title. Carl Jr. looking to be a repeat champion here once again. We'll see if he can do it, or if Pack can pull off the upset here in that final head-to-head. We'll see what happens here in just a few short moments, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in, though. A few quick shout-outs to our partners, Logitech G and XP Sports. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below, as well as our new merch store as well. We've got some amazing stuff there you guys can head over and check out as well. But guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back with the final head-to-head of Carl Jr. and Pack coming up in just a few moments. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back and just about ready to go. It's honestly been an incredible run here so far for Scrapie. I mean, third place, definitely something to be proud of here. And even though Pack and Carl Jr. will be going head to head in the finals, I definitely think some big celebrations happening here on our end as well, just for honestly a really great performance overall. Right now, though, we are going to get ready to hop into it here. I'm actually going to be bringing in Scrapie as a guest with me here for the finals as well. So I'm going to get that coordinated for you guys, and we're going to be bringing Scrapie in to guest cast the final here with me as well. Get some of his thoughts as Carl and Pack go head to head here to close out the season. We are getting ready, though, to hop in here, guys. We'll go ahead and let you guys see the warm-up that's going to be going on here. Right now, though, we will be hopping in just a few short moments here with the finals alongside Scrapie here.
Hello.
All right. Looks like Scrapie is here, guys. How you doing, man? Enjoyed watching that last set of races. I'm sure you're pretty happy with how things ended up, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm really happy how it ended. Third place in the end. From third last to third. This is good.
Yeah, definitely a crazy run. I know going into it, I saw a lot of people saying, they didn't even think you were going to make it out of that first round. So I guess my first question is, how did you feel when you made it through that first round of 9?
I was actually surprised that I could go so easy. Wait, is my mic still wrong?
It's buzzing a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna switch to this one until I can fix it. Yeah, it was like I didn't expect to go through because I went in with like the mentality this is gonna be hard, but as soon as I saw the map picks, my 2 worst maps were played in the 2 first rounds, so I had no chance to play them, and I got my other 3 good maps. And I came in and I felt like, yeah, I can do this pace. Pack and Carl aren't there. Pace is possible, and yeah, all looked good. Now I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to time it after this round to join the server because I don't want to join like them because they're already live, I think.
Yeah, they are live right now.
If I can even join, I'm not sure. Let me see.
Yeah, they are live right now, I believe, on the first map, just things getting started. I'm not sure if it'll let you join either, but yeah.
I'll try soon.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess while we're waiting to get you in the server, something I was going to ask too is just, some of your thoughts on that last round of the top 4 there and kind of how that went down and some of your thoughts. I know the biggest note that I had was obviously I'm sure seeing Slalom twice was kind of disappointing in that round of 4.
Yeah, the map order, Carl Jr. picking Slalom first was obviously not good for me. I think there's a KO. Let me try to join. Oh, it's letting me join. Okay, nice. Wait. I hope I don't join as a player. Oh, I am joining as a player. Let's pray I'm in spec, please. Okay, yeah, all good, I'm in spec. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, okay, the only thing I can hope for here is that both of them crash or both of them have a small mistake so I can win a round, because I know I cannot beat either of them on pace on Slalom, sadly. So, yeah. But could have won on a different map, could have taken Arctic Split, for example, earlier on, but wasn't meant to be there, and yeah, but I'm still happy.
Yeah, definitely, and honestly, I mean, considering, probably where your head was at the start of yesterday, making it this far is still impressive in itself. I mean, you had the final chance where it's pretty much stacked against everyone, and then you had today coming in, 6 rounds behind, and honestly, like, winning it in just 4 races is pretty amazing in itself, considering I think the other 3 drivers who went out didn't even win a single race today.
Yeah, it was like they didn't even get to win a single round. It was really quick, like the first round, so it was actually close. I was happy. Obviously, the map order helped, but yeah, it was really nice. And yeah, this is basically. I never dreamt of actually getting this far. I didn't even think I would make it yesterday, but I did somehow. And now today, coming this far, I had confidence going into the second match after the first one because I felt like I had the pace. Just that Pack, especially Pack, felt like way faster. But yeah, it was really good.
So I guess now going into the grand final here, who do you have kind of being that person you think is going to win at this point? I know a lot of people said maybe Pac might be favorable to upset Carl this time, but what are your thoughts on kind of who you think is going to take this today?
I also think Pac should have... What is he... What? Oh my god, you can full grip that? Okay, yeah. Yeah, Pac looks really strong. He should... I think he is the faster player on most of the maps. I think Carl will win on Bicycle. Pac should win on this map here, on reversing. Then on Slalom it's going to be really close. Frozen Fridges is... I mean, Pac just showed that he was really shaky on Frozen Fridges, so I don't know. And I think we can expect to see an actual best of 5 here, that we go the max distance, because they are really different on the maps. So it could go the max difference, and I think Pac should be the favorite. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely things tied up here on at least the first map so far, but I think Pac is looking a little bit stronger on this map for sure, but I guess one of the big things that I've noticed too, just from watching the whole season, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, like, watching the last season to now, I feel like Pac, compared to a lot of drivers, has made some crazy improvements. Is there anything that you've noticed that's maybe the reasoning behind that?
It's Pac. I think it's Pac getting used to this map style. Pac was undoubtedly the fastest player on tech maps, which was the competitive style before this one was a thing. And he was also one of the best endurance players in the old games. So he was already very, very far up top. But now, like it was 2 seasons ago, he wasn't used to the map style yet, so he didn't even reach top 8. Oh, Carl, that is a DNF, that is a rip. And yeah, now that he's gotten used to it, he's really, really fast, and he can easily compete, and he should, like, in my eyes, is the best player. I still think Gwen is the best player if he trains, but it somehow felt like Gwen was not ready today.
Yeah, definitely. He struggled quite a bit in that round of 6, and it just felt like there were points where he just felt uncomfortable, it seemed, to the rest of the group here. But we do have Pac taking the lead now in the finals, but kind of what you predicted here, reversing being a little bit stronger for him. Something I noticed is in that last section, the way he takes that final reverse into the finish line just seems so much cleaner than what the other drivers have been able to do on this map.
Yeah, if I saw that correct, he's staying on the ground. He doesn't jump. He doesn't lift off at all from the ground, and this is a really strong strategy. I didn't even know that was possible, but it's also really hard to aim in backwards, so I'm quite impressed what he does there. But now I understand that he's so fast. I mean, me and Pac had quite a battle on this map here, pace-wise. And yeah, it was just really, really close. I'm lucky. I'm really happy, actually, that I took the win on this one, because I knew I was in the discussion pre-match. They talked about, like, who gets third and fourth. I was asking, like, how to decide. And he said, like, if one guy has one map and the other one doesn't, then it's obvious, etc., etc. So I was really happy when I took this victory here. And I didn't know in the end, like, the difference between me and Muda was I won a map first, and this is why I'm third and he's fourth. So it was really important.
Yeah, that was really close then too, because he won the map after, right? So
yeah,
that's really close to the wire. But yeah, it's right now it looks like Pac though is going to take this one. I think Carl's just having a rough time keeping up. But
that is cast a curse into the wall he goes, and that is a knockout for Carl.
Literally impeccable timing, cursed into it. So maybe Carl has a chance here now. Who knows? But yeah, I think this one is really just a good sense too, since something I wanted to talk about with you as well is just seeing, you know, your thoughts on performance from the different drivers who made it through the top 8 in the regular season versus like how they function in the playoff format. Do you think, you know, outside of these two guys who've seemed pretty consistent throughout both sides, how do you feel some of the other drivers who maybe didn't make it with you in the final chance might have done in this type of format?
In the final, you mean it now from the bottom 8 of the standing?
Yeah, so
Or
some of those guys who maybe from that final chance group, is there anyone you think could have maybe done better than some of the guys who actually qualified through the regular season and just the difference in the format?
I think so, yeah. I think a well-trained... Oh, Carl this time with a crash. Like, a well-trained Massa, a well-trained Spam are very strong drivers, although they didn't make it far yesterday, but still they are very, very fast in terms of pace. But if I just compare the pace that was driven today with the pace from yesterday, I don't think any one of them would have gotten far either. So it was just, yeah. I know that who went out here first round? It was Afi, Bren, and I don't know. Who was the other one that went out? But yeah, I think Afi wasn't quite on pace today. He could have been easily beaten by the others from yesterday. But other than that, I think it was pretty much deserved.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess something I was going to ask you as well is, you know, considering kind of how things went for you personally, regular season compared to this weekend, how are you feeling now, kind of looking ahead to, you know, the future seasons and maybe anything you learned about either just the play style in this format versus the regular season that makes you feel differently about how things might go in the next season?
I definitely have to change the playstyle a bit if I make it to next season. Obviously, first we have the relegation match next week that I still have to win. But considering how I performed today, if I keep up the training, I feel pretty comfortable going into that match against Yvonne. So we see Pack getting another round with a very, very fast time. That is only 0.2 from the world record, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, but I definitely have to adapt a bit. I need to get more confidence in driving faster because I felt like I wasn't driving on the pace I could drive in the steps so far this season, so next season's gonna adapt. Then again, there's a long, long pause until next season hits. It's 6 months until next season starts, more or less, so we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I know one of the things I was curious about is, you know, for the relegation as well, kind of going into that next weekend, I believe you're going up against Yvonne in essentially a rematch from yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
So do you feel confident that it's going to be a pretty similar outcome there? Or do you think maybe he underperformed a little bit in kind of how things went down yesterday in that final?
He really only underperformed on the last map. On slalom, I think he can still beat me if he gets regular. I will definitely try to up my pace a bit on that map. But other than that, I feel very confident going into that match. For now, I feel like I have the upper hand in pace on most of the maps. And he's also the more inexperienced driver. Yesterday, he also told me like he was very, very shaky, etc., etc. So it's gonna be... I should be the favorite in this, and I really hope that it just goes how it should be, how it's like expected to go, and not gonna be some upsets. But we'll see. He said he's motivated. But I think I can still clutch this out and get into next season.
Yeah, and it'd be a crazy thing to think, too, after getting third place in the final, that relegation's even an option. But, yeah, I'm sure things will hopefully go as planned in that one coming up next weekend. But right now, it actually looks like Carl's outpacing a little bit so far here on this sixth run here.
Carl is going lower. Oh, he doesn't get the landing, so it's like point. Oh no, Carl! Is he stuck? He's stuck, right? Yeah, he's stuck. Okay, there's a free round for Pack if he looks at the CPs and does not fail the ending. Pack! Oh my god!
That was very close.
He did not look at the CPs. He did not look at the CPs. Oh, he hit the wall. Oh my god.
Well, that's one up on the board for Pack here. Pretty clean first map, but honestly surprising. Carl seemed to make quite a few mistakes on that one there as well.
Yeah, they're obviously both... The times they're driving are really, really fast, so they're pushing themselves to the very, very maximum of their pace. So they're driving very risky lines to get the fastest fingers they can. And that's why they are making probably more mistakes than they did before. And yeah, this map I don't know. Pack Wait, did I play Pack on? Yeah, Pack didn't look too good on this map. So this is probably all. But Carl also not the strongest driver. He won this map, but they are both not so comfortable with this map. We'll see. We'll see. And TB, I don't think I gain anything towards the World Cup. I will not be qualified. I will have to do the open qualifier for the World Cup. If I would have reached the final, I would have been qualified. That's why Massa tweeted, yeah, he's in the final now because of points. In the World Cup, I mean.
Right now, early on, seems like Pac struggling quite a bit though here in this first run through, but
yeah, it's a lot in the first corner already, because the first corner is very risky, as you probably saw yesterday how I failed it nearly every single round and was 0.6 behind. But yeah, this map is very risky and probably the hardest map to drive safe every round. So we'll see who will crash, and that is Pac into the pillar. And that is Carl into the pillar. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, sure.
got a close race on our hands now, but I think that brings up an important topic in terms of just something I've noticed is like I feel like every driver in that uphill section takes it a little bit differently. Why do you think that is? There's so many kind of different approaches to that section of the track here.
It always depends on how precise you can aim with your controller or keyboard, depending on what you're driving. These two are obviously driving controller. But it's very hard. Like the more you release, the more precise you can, or the more you can aim to actually make it. So when you want to save, you pretty much go slow into it, take more boost, and then you can aim better. But it's still so rough. Unless you're driving cam free, you don't get the straight angle with your camera to see where you're jumping. So it's all on feeling, and it's quite difficult. So let's see. Can Carl snipe this? He's obviously going to risk. So Pac is releasing slightly more, as you can see. And there's already the overtake. Ooh. This is going to be close.
Very close indeed up to the finish line here.
They won't
Pac,
make
though.
it. Oh, Pac hits a CP. Oh no, and the Yep tree.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
That was such a close round. And to think it's so close when they both crash in the first lap.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I mean, whoever could have recovered that might have actually had a chance to just win it a lot cleaner than their finish there down to the wire. But right now, I guess Carl Jr. is kind of the position, though. He kind of needs to win this one anyways. He's already down on one map here. And I feel like Pac, if he got two, I could definitely see him running away with a 3-0 on this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the third map is. But as long as it's not... If it's Bicycle, then he won't run away, because Carl is definitely fast on Bicycle. Other than that, I don't really know.
Pac, though, looking a lot cleaner this time around already. Almost up to about a half-second lead.
Carl is gaining again, up to 0.2 now.
Yeah, pretty solid overall. Carl, though, I've noticed one of the big things that Carl has going for him. I feel like out of any driver I've watched, he's got such a good ability to recover time compared to most of the drivers in the league. Like, he did it in the regular season, and he's done it a lot here this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's the ability to risk when needed. Like, oh, that is Steph. That is, yeah, that should be a win by KO unless Pac flies out of the first corner. He gets it pretty well. I think this is a KO here. Yeah. It's the ability to like risk when you really need to. When you're behind, you need to know how to push it so you can gain time on the others again. And Carl is just a very fast driver, so he can do that. And this is how he comes back every time. But not this time. 1-1.
Yeah, definitely some mistakes being made today from Carl, but we'll see if he can find a way to recover. It's definitely not over just yet, and when we get to Bicycle, I'm sure that'll be strong, as you said, for him as well. But Carl definitely having the stronger start this time around to kick it off.
Yeah, Pac didn't get the first ice turn in the upper gear, or in the lower gear rather. He geared up, so he lost a lot of speed. And we'll probably see Pac trying to risk it now a bit, because 0.4 is already quite a margin. Already down to 0.3 here. Gets a really good turn. He's risking hard. You clearly see on the line he's taking. He's getting it slightly better than Carl, but is not really catching up yet.
It's going to be tough, but part of me is thinking what's going to happen when they hit the uphill boost this time around. Last time we saw them both having a bit of an error hitting some pillars up here.
Yeah, we haven't seen a clean round yet from either of these. So, both gonna make it so far though. The gap remaining exactly the same here. Both making it. It should remain the same again. So, Carl is managing that lead. Decent lap time. We have different lines here into the first turn. I think Pack is... Oh, how does that even work? Here's the comeback. He's coming back. Only 0.2 now.
Yeah, definitely a good approach from Pack on that first icy turn there, and just gaining about half the distance here. It's still going to be tough to try and catch up for the full overtake. I think it's really going to come down to that execution on the uphill boost the second time around.
Yeah. Gets a good air brake here. Almost going too high from Pack. Does he have more speed? Yeah, he should have more speed. But it's going to be 0.3 again, I think. No. Yeah, it's 0.3 again, the gap here. So this is... I mean, 0.2 is definitely doable in the end. Oh, Carl goes a bit too wide. Oh, Pack goes too tight, and this should be GG for Carl, because this is almost half a second now. He can pretty much save the ending. Oh yeah, that's 0.8. If Carl does not hit a pillar, this is definitely his round. He can even slow down a bit. He is slowing down. Like, he's slowing a lot before going on the booster, so his aim is 100% precise, and this is how you save this identity, and this is how Carl wins this round.
Nicely done there from Carl. Getting closer to tying it up here on Arctic Split. That'd make things a lot more interesting for sure, but Pack definitely still in a position where he could win this one back, and I definitely think how he approaches this first section of the track could play to his advantage in the long run here.
Yeah, this turn again, very important. Oh, I think Carl... Did he? No, he didn't lose the game gear. Okay, both with a good start. This is already very important. You can tell from experience, once you get that, you're already a bit... heart rate is going down. Alright, let's see.
Right now, Carl's starting to pull ahead a little bit, but not too much to feel safe enough just yet. Pack, though, taking a slightly different approach, but this turn last time around, he always goes a little bit higher, I feel, than Carl.
Yeah, and he's not counter-steering fast enough to gain the speed. He should gain speed by going higher, but his counter-steer is too late, so he's sliding down the dirt, losing speed, so it's not paying off for him.
Right now, it is going to be approaching that first section of the uphill boost here. Carl trying to catch a little bit of extra comfort here, but Pack, yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. Probably a win by KO at this point.
Yeah, Carl makes it. At the finish line should be the KO CP, so this round is over and it's 3-1.
Looking like Carl may just take this one away, tie it up, and I believe Bicycle might be the next map as well, so could be a chance for Carl to grab the lead overall as well. But I guess the maps to come after that are going to be quite interesting. I'm really excited to see how things kind of go down on Slalom more than anything, I think.
Yeah, they are both really, really fast players on Slalom. Pack making a bit of a mistake though last time. But... no, wait, he actually won it twice, I think. So Slalom is definitely a map that he likes. But we'll see, we'll see. As I said, this final is, they are almost equal skill, I would say, and this is going to be one hell of a final.
Definitely proving to be the case so far, as Carl seems pretty ready to tie this one up, take it into the map 3, feeling a little bit more confident. After map 1, I wasn't so sure. Carl seemed to be making quite a bit more mistakes in that first map. Definitely feeling a lot more comfortable on this one, though.
Pack is slowing down. He overturned onto the booster. Oh, but Carl with a huge mistake. This is a KO if Pack survives this. Oh my, he survives. Barely. This should be a KO again, unless Pack chokes the first turn. Which he does not, and this is definitely a KO.
Well, still a chance here for Pack on Arctic Split. Coming back from a 3-1, though. Gonna be a tough one. Still needs one more to even tie it up. 2 more in a row to win it, but it's definitely potential that's there. But Carl, I think if he doesn't make any mistakes, he seems to be a little bit faster time-wise overall.
Yeah, he seems to have the upper hand here. He gets the gear here, which slows him down by 0.3. It will even cost more in the next stretch, so this is already quite a big disadvantage for Carl into this round. So let's see how he does in catching up to Pack here.
Pack definitely feeling more confident in this one. Great start along with it. It's going to be all about Pack, though, in that uphill boost section, making sure he doesn't make too many decisions that could cost him here. Right now, though, Carl starting to chip away a little bit at that time, still about 0.5 behind, though, and on an easy recovery, but if he continues to chip away here, he may have a chance going into the uphill boost to recover.
Yeah, let's see how they do the identity here. Carl is catching slightly, but not really in a way that he can catch, and that is not the turn Carl wants, but also Pack, not the best turn there. So, not much lost here for Carl, although making a slight mistake. Pack again with a small mistake. Carl is coming closer, but still far away from actually overtaking here. This first turn does not look good for Carl either. I think the gap is gonna go up to like 8/10 here, and this only means that there's only a chance to catch up if Pack actually hits a wall.
It's definitely going to be a tough one here. Pack kind of going for that reverse sweep here if he can keep it going.
He got a lower gear, so he loses 0.3 here actually. This is a huge time loss for Pack there in the turn. So Carl is getting closer, and he's almost close enough that with a full risk ending that he can overtake Pack. But I still think that if Pack does not make a mistake, that Carl has no chance of overtaking him here.
It's going to be very close. Pack, though, has to stay very calm and collected here in this section. He's been kind of hit and miss throughout it. Right now, though, Carl edging closer and closer each pillar that comes by.
Yeah, Carl is risking it all here, but if Pack makes this gap, and he does, this should be a round for him, and we go into a decisive round. Oh, Carl even going for my line through the trees there to catch up. Almost getting him, but not enough.
Now it's going to come down to the final one after 2 wins a row for Pack. Do you think he's going to be able to close this one out with 3 in a row, or do you see Carl still pulling away here?
Let's see, first turn. If Carl does not, like, he didn't lose it this time. Like, he lost it because he failed the first turn twice last round. Now he's on pace, so when they're equal, I definitely see Carl being stronger here. So let's see how this pans out. Both getting the upper gear here, both staying on pace.
Right now, though, looks like Pack's starting to pull ahead just a little bit. Not enough at all to feel safe yet, but Carl doing a good job of just bringing it back very quickly here. But going into this uphill section, I'm pretty interested to see what Carl might do differently this time around.
Will they go full risk? They're inside of each other here. It is so close. Pack with a big mistake. He saves it, so he's not gonna get KO'd. But now Carl definitely has the upper hand here.
It's going to be a tough recovery now for Pack, being almost a full second behind going into the second lap here. He's going to have to bring out some incredible times here to try and recover this one, or hope that Carl makes a mistake himself here. But right now, it's not looking too good for Pack here on Arctic Split here in the final run.
It's the same as last round. He needs to hope for a mistake from Carl here, because this gap is definitely too big. Let's see if Carl gets the upper gear here. This looks like a solid turn from Carl. Pack almost crashing as well. He is really trying everything to catch up, but I don't think that he can catch this up.
Yeah, it seems like an almost impossible task here. Just has to basically hope at this point that Carl makes a mistake that gives him enough time to catch back up here. Making maybe a little bit of headway here, but not really enough to have that large of an impact just yet. So we'll see as we go into the final sections here if they can make it happen, but Carl looking pretty comfortable so far.
Yeah, only a mistake can lose it here for Carl. That is a woo! But Pack also not getting it. Carl with a heart attack into that second jump, but he makes it, and he's gonna close out map number 2.
Nicely done there from Carl. Ties up the overall series score as well here in the grand final, 1-1. So still definitely anybody's final to take away, but Carl taking advantage of the situation there on that final run, but still, I mean, with how close that map went, I think it's a strong indicator for this final continuing to be this close kind of throughout, since it seems that I think it's just going to come down to a lot of these little details rather than, you know, one person being extremely better at a map than another.
Yeah, as I said, these players are exactly on each other's skill level, so there's no one is going to outskill the other one here or dominate this match in a fashion that is notable, so we're in for a good one.
Going into slalom now for map number 3 here. It's going to be interesting to see who maybe has the best approach, especially on that ice section. Who would you say between these two guys you think maybe has a better approach to that, or do you see more of like an identical approach between these two guys going into that section?
I haven't specifically seen their approaches, but I think Pack has the faster line on this map, as far as I can remember from what they are actually driving in times, but I guess I'll see here.
Yeah, we'll definitely see going into it. This section as well, the uphill slalom's definitely given quite a bit of trouble, I noticed, to many of the drivers as well.
Yeah, it's very risky to go through here, so let's see. I think they have the same approach. Oh, Pack slid out. Pack slid out, and he's not gonna get KO'd, I think, but he's definitely far back now.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough recovery here, but this is one of those maps where you kind of have to keep gunning for it and hope that the next time around it doesn't go quite as well for Carl. As we saw, especially in the final chance yesterday, there were some of those races just in 2 laps that every single driver had some sort of major mistake on this map. It's just a really challenging one.
Pack is going down here. He messed up the grass turn. This is going to be a victory by KO for Carl, unless he sends it into a wall in the next 2 CPs, which is not looking likely. And yeah, I see that.
There we have it. Carl Jr. wins the first race here on map number 3. Off to a nice start on slalom, but I feel like this map's probably going to come down to just that, waiting to see who makes that first mistake and then just trying to capitalize on it, since it's going to be hard for both of these drivers to have back-to-back clean runs, I feel like, on a map like this.
Yeah, especially when they're pushing each other to the limit of their capabilities here. Fully going into the fastest times possible. So we'll see.
Starting it off, though, this time around, it is going to be Pack with a slight early lead, but definitely a small margin in between here so far. Carl already trying to go in for the overtake here as they go into the uphill slalom. It's going to be Pack who gets a little bit of an edge here, actually, over him.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the ending, though, here, to see who will go up ahead here. So here, Carl with a very straight approach, both getting it good. I think Pack should have more speed here, and it's going to be ahead by like 0.1 at the end of it, unless he hits the flag. No, he doesn't. Oh my god. That time is
close call
pretty
there.
Fast.
Pack, though, still managing to hold on to the lead so far. Definitely in need of it as well after losing the last map and already being down 1-0 here on slalom. He needs a strong performance on his side here sooner rather than later. Carl, though, already chipping away and ready to go in for the overtake potential once again here soon.
Yeah, has better line here, more speed out of that section. He's slowly catching up to him. This is a worse line though. If Pack gets it good, they both land equally. So it's gonna come down to the very end unless somebody decides to fly out on the grass here miraculously. No, they don't. Carl with a more inside approach. He's gonna catch back up to Pack here, and it's all gonna come down to the last slide. Here we go, identity. Oh, and Carl slides out and is dead. And so Pack will take this round.
Nice win there from Pack to trade it up, evening the score here 1-1 on slalom. Still, it's just going to come down to basically that final section of track there, the ice proving to be extremely difficult, especially just seeing everything that's happened so far. Some crazy endings we've seen just in that section alone, but it just goes to show you how challenging this map can be. Pack, though, I would say, in picking this map, it does show a bit more confidence, I would say, on this map, and this was the map that essentially got him here to the finals as well. So I think if for some reason he lost this one, it would be a difficult series overall to win.
Yeah, this is definitely a pack map. Like, he has a bit more pace than Carl, but still, you can see Carl is holding up pretty well, so it's gonna be a close one. By the way, his time last round, from the times I saw, is only like 0.1 behind the current world record, so they are really pushing it as oh no, a pack hits the wall, and is this a KO? What is it? Yeah, it's a KO. This is gonna be another round for Carl, gifted by pack. With a really, really bad mistake.
Definitely unfortunate timing there from pack, resulting in another lost round by KO, and Carl just 2 away now from taking it on Slalom, and this is definitely going to make things a bit more interesting to see if pack can pull it back. We saw the last map, he still was able to push it to a race 7 situation, wasn't able to close it there, but I'd expect this time around a much better performance from pack, definitely under the pressure. He doesn't seem to be a driver that tends to fall too heavily under the pressure here.
Yeah. Also, this map is picked by Carl, because I think Carl was first to close it out in the to reach the final. So he picked first map and third map. So this has to be Carl's pick.
Definitely an interesting choice coming out from Carl, but hey, maybe he just felt confident on it. Or, you know, maybe he also just wanted to get it out of the way and not have it be, you know, the highest pressure map at the very end as well. It'll be interesting to see exactly who pulls away with it.
Since we're playing the full map pool here in the final anyways, it doesn't really matter. Like, in the end, you just have to win your maps that you feel confident on, and it's good. And pack is not good in that identity, and this is going to be another round for Carl. And so that there's no ban, there's no map not being played, so in the end, it doesn't matter. Just a mental thing with the order.
Pack, though, definitely falling under the pressure a little bit here. That's multiple KO victories now for Carl Jr. just on this map alone. And pack, he's going to have to clean it up here going into the remainder. He has to win 3 before Carl wins 1 in order to take this one. Otherwise, Carl will swing into the lead overall as well and potentially move in on getting himself yet another championship here. Pack, though, he definitely has some chance to get this going, as I feel like if he could eliminate some of these mistakes that he's having, his overall lap time's honestly not that bad, and he could potentially take this one away.
Yeah, kind of feels like the one run between me and Yvonne yesterday on this map here. One guy is just failing, and that's the only reason why he's behind.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the exact same thing here between these two, as Pack makes another small mistake, but also Carl with a small mistake, so it's gonna equalize again. Coming into the identity. Let's see who's gonna slide out. Oh, Pack with a bit of a weird setup. He still makes it, so it's still a close round. Oh, even more speed than Carl.
Yeah, definitely some nice speed coming out of that one from Pack. Not quite able to hold on to the lead for too long here, though. As we go into the start of the second lap here, Carl sliding back into first just by a very small margin here, but the real question for Pack now is if he can recover and get the overtake once again, but Pack still looking, I'd say, a little bit shakier in that final identity section.
Yeah, he's looking a bit more shaky in the identity, and this round is probably all going to come down to that one again. They're not going to go further than 0.1 from each other unless somebody hits a wall in this part here. No, they don't. So, oh my god, that was so close from Pack. He's going to catch. Oh no, and he hits the wall. Is this GG for Carl?
It's pretty
Carl
close.
Just saves it. But there is no save line. He is in the upper gear, so he can't save. But he makes it, and this should be the GG on map number 3 for Carl.
Definitely a strong performance from Carl, but ultimately it kind of just came down to consistency there. He just didn't make as many mistakes, kind of like what you're saying with what happened between you and Yvonne. It didn't feel like Carl was necessarily driving the faster times. He was just playing a little bit cleaner where he needed to, and you know, at this point that could be all of the difference you need.
Yeah, this was coming down to Pack making mistakes. He had three big mistakes, 1 smaller mistake with this round, and it's just, in such a match, you can't allow that. And now we go on to Carl's strongest map, I would say. He was looking very, very good here in the matches. So this is not going to be easy for Pack.
Definitely going to be a tough
Could see a 3-1
one.
here. Yeah.
And this is the map that he was picking earlier in the day as well. Seemed pretty comfortable and confident on it. And Pack, again, the errors are coming out.
No.
Pack just seeming to falter under the pressure here today. And Carl, again, in a position to KO early.
This is going to be an instant KO. I don't see Carl making any mistake here. And Pack still has no speed, so the gap is only going to increase. And this is a quick 1-0 here for Carl.
And that's really going to give him even more momentum on his side. Already up 2-1 in the series score. Now a nice quick KO to get it kicked off on map number 4. Pack definitely in the position where he needs to try and get things rolling his way quickly. Otherwise, this could be a quick 3-1 coming out from Carl.
Yeah, the pressure is mounting for Pack here. Going down 1-0, obviously, in the best of 7 on the map. It's not too bad, but as I said, Carl has definitely the edge here on pace on this map. So ultimately, it's going to be really, really tough for Pack to hold up and actually win this map. But we'll see, as Carl is already in the lead.
Definitely already having the stronger pace. A little slow around the last couple of turns, though. Pack making some headway at catching up here, but see if Carl can hold on to this lead, especially in the final section of track. I think he does have a very strong performance potential, but Pack does slide into the lead here, though, taking a little bit riskier of a move around that tree. But as we saw happen to both you and Pack earlier, hitting that tree during some of the key moments as well can basically ruin your run here.
Yeah, Carl Jr. actually jumped too far to the left, would have hit the CP, released enough to not hit the CP and stays into the round. Actually a great save from him, so the round is still very close. This turn here is probably going to decide this, as both get it kind of equal, so this is going to be hard for Carl to catch up. He's going to have to pull a bit of a risky move now, because it's really tough to gain any time on this map. Although Pack, that was not a great... Oh, okay, well, we're back to even.
Definitely all things equal now. Carl just having a slightly better approach across the map. Seems like each checkpoint he's getting closer and closer here to the potential to overtake, and it's really just going to come down to Pack doing everything he can to try and prevent that from happening. Pack has to play it almost perfectly up to the finish line here. Carl, one small hole and he gets in.
Oh, I think, but Carl has to really... Yeah, Carl would have hit the CP if he full speeds that, so now Pack has 0.10 of a gap. This ending is really hard to gain or lose anytime, so this should be a Pack round, but he can still mess this up with a bad turnaround. He has more speed here than Carl, but he's going very inside. Woo! Okay, anything's possible here. Carl going for a quicker turnaround, but Pack will win the round. But what a round.
Very close down to the finish line there. Carl just 0.01 seconds behind him, and just the small detailing mattering the most here on that second run. But that's just how close this truly is. When Pack eliminates those mistakes, he's got a very competitive edge to him, and honestly, he's able to put up some really insane times. He's just made more mistakes in the overall series so far.
Yeah, we're going to be in for a close battle. The times were actually not bad. 0.9 is a really good run. But I think Pack has a problem with that second slide there. He always loses 0.1 on Carl. And in a match like this could be a deciding factor. So, again, Pack on the back foot here into round number 3.
Trying to chip away here, though. Pack making it a pretty small difference here at this point between the two drivers. But Carl, all he has to do is hold on at this point and avoid any mistakes that make that gap of 0.1 go away here. And as you can see, even around the last couple of turns, Carl extending a bit on that lead as well.
Yeah, he did not make the mistake. Now that I think of it, last round he did a mistake twice at the tree section by having to release because jumping too high. So he definitely has more pace than Pack here. He just needs to keep it clean. First turn will decide a lot here. So let's see how they approach it here. Carl will still keep a bit of speed, but Pack should be faster here. Oh no, not that. No. Okay, Pack is losing it.
Right now, Pack definitely in a difficult position to try and close this one out. Carl up to almost 0.3 seconds of lead time here. It's going to take a major mistake from
And
Carl
there's the
probably
hit.
to let this go.
There's the hit from Pack, and this means this round is over. He was trying to push it to the limits. He had to, and he failed.
Unfortunate for Pack, but his time is starting to run out here in the grand final. 2 away from Carl Jr. being the champion once again. Pack, though, I still got to hand him to it no matter how this goes down. He has played extremely well throughout the year so far.
Yeah, he played a fantastic season, although losing points in the first step. Still in the final here. It's going to be very close here. So let's see if he can keep up this round. As I said, this is a Carl Jr. map, and it's going to be really tough for him to catch back up.
See Pack trying to take maybe a little bit difference in his approach here to see if he can shave off some time. Unfortunately, not really working out to his advantage here at the start, going down to about that 0.1 once again already from the start. Carl pulling ahead early on, applying that pressure nicely here in race number 4 already.
Let's see, again, Carl a bit in front here in the start. He has a bit of a risky approach here. Carl's jumping often too high and has to release. This time, although he makes it, so he's only going to extend the lead. And Pack is having a really tough time here, keeping up with Carl.
It's very close here, but Carl just maintaining what he needs to stay just out in front here. As we close out lap number 1, it's going to be up to Pack to try and find a way to recover that 0.2 difference, but with how Carl's been approaching this map, that's going to be difficult.
That's a crash from Pack, and that's another round for Carl Jr. here, and he's going to go up to match point. Or to TMGL champion point, we should say.
Definitely an impressive run here from Carl Jr., but Pack, what do you think is going on here? Is it just trying too many things that are risky, or maybe just faltering under the pressure?
This round he went very far in the last booster. He had way too much speed into the first corner, and he just could not control it. But he is also on his limits, pushing it, because Carl is clearly fast on this map, and that's probably causing him to make these mistakes.
Right now, we'll see if there's any hope left here for Pack to try and claw back at this map. But right now, Carl Jr. is one good run here away from taking another championship home. Pack, though, this time around, surprisingly out in front early, but he hits the wall there. That could be enough to close this one out. Is it going to be enough time, though, around the checkpoint? Just enough to keep him with a small chance, but at this point, Carl can just kind of play it safe here, and he should close it out.
Not a lot of stuff that is risky here. Carl is also already ringing the horn on the jump. He knows 0.4 is a huge gap on this map. I really only see a hope for Pack here if Carl messes up the first turn, although Pack is already coming back. But I don't see him catching this up unless Carl does make a mistake in the next turn here. This is going to be the deciding turn in my eyes. Will Carl make it? He does make it, but he does not make it very fast. But yeah, I think... No! Oh my god, Pack. Yeah, I don't think Pack is going to catch this unless Carl hits a wall.
It's pretty much all eyes on Carl now. Ooh. If he can keep it clean, this could be enough.
That was a mistake from Carl. Only a slight one, but it's going to cost him. And Pack is going to come back to like 0.50. Oh my god, he didn't hit the barrier. Okay. Pack is in striking distance now.
He's definitely taking the necessary risks, and they're starting to pay off, but still about 0.1 of a lead gap here as they approach closer.
He loses speed, and this is a Yep tree. This is a Yep tree from Pack, and it's GG. Carl Jr. is going to be the TMGL champion.
Carl Jr. just closing it out here now with the knockout, and he will be the champion once again. Very nicely done from him, just showing that He truly seems to be the most consistent driver out there and continuing to show that dominance here in the grand finals today. Big congratulations for him for walking away with the win. Pack, of course, the runner-up. Scrapie here, third place as well. Congratulations to you as well. I'm sure third place going into the weekend wasn't necessarily an expectation, but, you know, all said and done, still a great performance on your end as well.
Yeah. I can be happy. I think Carl is going to be happy. I don't know if Pack is going to be happy, but what a day. What a day.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to be where we conclude things here for our broadcast for the TMGL Winter 2021 season. Of course, Scrapie is still going to have his relegation matches coming up next weekend, so be sure to stay tuned for those. But for that, that's going to wrap us for the season here. And a big shout out before we go to our sponsors real quick, Logitech G and XP Sports. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. And of course, follow the channel here and support Scrapie if you guys haven't yet there in the chat. Definitely appreciate that as well. Scrapie, it was great to have you join me here for the finals. I'm not sure if you're planning on doing any streaming after this today, but yeah, just again, congratulations on the performance this weekend and excited to see what's to come for the future of yourself and Trackmania here.
Yeah, what a great day. I don't know if I want to go live today, but... Or again today. I already streamed today. I don't know. Maybe a quick celebration. It's already 10 p.m. in Europe, so... who knows, who knows. But what a day. I hope you all enjoyed in chat, guys. Thank you for sticking around with our stream here, with the Lazarus cast. Really great to see so many people in chat sticking around with this stream. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everybody for tuning in. That's where we'll leave it here for the weekend. Appreciate everyone showing their support and have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks, guys.